Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Crucible. I'm your host, Andrew Wilson. Tonight we've got a matchup between Based Fatty Chad, Orthodox Inquirer of all things, and Alex PWF from the Playing with Fire channel. It's going to be an interesting debate. We've got Eibel already running the bot in at that fucking Eibel bot, right? We're just going to leave Eibel there, okay? Just going to leave him there. I got in a fight with my lawnmower today, and I won. I did win. Fucking thing, I fixed it. Fucking pissed me off. I'm still upset about it, so hoping there'll be a little bit of blood tonight. Just a little bit on the arena floor to satiate the debate blood gods, right? We'll see. We'll see. Remember that you can send in a dono chat whenever you want. If you want your super chats read, they will be read. We'll be taking callers tonight, just like we do every debate. We'll kind of signal when the call-in time is. Hop in the Discord if you want to call in. Last thing is make sure that you like, share, subscribe. Do all the fucking shit you're supposed to do. We're still not using the main channel yet. Still, we did qualify for this one to be monetized, but I'm still waiting for the fucking assholes at YouTube to get off their ass and monetize the alt channel. And we'll be back on the main channel here in a couple of weeks. So, meantime, just bear with us. We're going to do a can drive on this channel soon. As soon as it's monetized, we're going to do a big ass can drive. It'll be good. So, hopefully, you guys all enjoy the debate. Appreciate all of you showing up. And we'll be right back with both of our debaters. And we're back, and for some reason the configuration's all fucked up, but I unfucked it. Being the great, wonderful, and handsome host that I am, I can do shit like that. Starting on the upper left, we have Kyle, Based Fatty Chad. I gave him that name, and it has stuck with him evermore. Why don't you go ahead, take a second, shout out whatever social media you'd like, and briefly tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
All right. I am Kyle. I am the co-host of the Two Tongues podcast. You can find that on YouTube and all the big podcast apps. I co-host the show with my best friend, Chris. We've been friends for 30 years. So it's just two guys who have been friends for a long ass time. We talk about current events, culture, spirituality, things like that. You've probably seen me talking shit into the void in the live chat here on the Crucible as well. Other than that, there's not much to say. This is the first debate I've ever done, so we'll see how it goes.
That's a Two Tongues podcast, right?
Yep, Two Tongues podcast.
That's with the annoying libertarian dude.
Yeah, that's my co-host and best friend Chris. He is definitely libertarian. I've grown out of that. When we started the podcast, I was a hardcore ANCAP, but just the last 2-3 years have cured me of that.
Well, everybody needs the cure to ANCAP or the ANCAP pill, right? Alex Playing with Fire. It's nice to see you again. Welcome back to the Crucible. Why don't you take a second, do the same thing, tell everybody where they can find you, and just briefly a little bit about yourself. You're muted, Alex. You're muted. We are experiencing technical difficulties.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Yep.
Okay.
You're good.
I don't know. Something's wrong with my Yeti microphone. So if there's an audio misbalance, just adjust it, Andrew, or let me know.
Yeah. No
all right, cool. Well, yeah, my name is Alex. We're on a channel called Playing with Fire. We specialize in giving practical, no BS dating advice, or as Andrew refers to me, the local degenerate. But yeah, I mean, I like debates. I like chatting with people who think differently than me. Me and Andrew have done a lot of really epic debates throughout the years, so I'm happy to be here and have a discussion with Kyle.
Happy to have you here too, Alex. Now, as agreed backstage, we're going to give Kyle the first opening. He'll have 7 minutes on the clock. Now, Kyle, you don't have to take the entire 7 minutes, or you can take the entire thing. I don't care either way. It's completely up to you, and it's your opening. And then we'll move over to Alex, and then I'm going to open the floor up. Both of you, I expect to adhere to my moderation. If I need to step in, I may do so from time to time in order to keep the conversation on track. Other than that, I'm not going to be interfering with the debate. Kyle, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
All right. I just wanted to open up by saying Hail Ibel, and then get on to the business here. I'm here tonight arguing that the rejection of the modern liberal attitude towards sexuality and its numerous manifestations would be beneficial to not only individuals, but also society at large. When I mention the numerous manifestations of sexuality in modern culture, I'm referring to the various ways by which some element of sexuality is forced into being the center of our attention. I use the word force loosely, as the vast majority of the time we are absolutely begging for it, and we've been begging for a long time. I was a kid in the 90s, and there was a definitive edginess and sexuality to the culture back then. The stuff from today has somehow lost the cool, edgy grittiness of the 90s, and it's been replaced by the cheap thrill of just being as graphically sexual as possible. It's not just entertainment forcing sexuality into the forefront of our minds. Turn on the news and you're bound to find multiple stories dealing with some element of sexuality and culture. From gay marriage to trans bathrooms, there's always something to keep you focused on it. And then there's a little device that you're looking at right now. Through unlimited access to porn, regardless of the age of the viewer, the West is destroying itself, not slowly at this point. I haven't touched on all the elements of sexuality in modern culture yet, but we'll have time for that. I wanted to wrap up on why I think this rejection of modern sexuality would be beneficial. I have a quote here from a drunken Irishman. It's not BPF. He's a little bit older than that. The quote is, "Everything in the world is about sex except sex. Sex is about power." And the drunken Irishman was Oscar Wilde. We've already talked a bit about everything being about sex, so let's talk about sex being about power. There's a cringy feminist SA way to interpret it, but you could also take it to mean that sexualization of our society has been deliberate, and its intent has been to erode the traditional societal constructs that have made humanity great up until this point. None more so than religion and family. This has been going on for a long time, decades to be sure, but it goes back a lot further than that. Just wanted to wrap up by saying that I am a Christian, but I've been thinking this way since before I was a Christian. And I don't plan to appeal to God in the debate because I don't think it will be effective. And I don't think it's necessary for a person to believe in God or necessarily be a part of a particular religion to see the value in a more traditional life. And that is it.
Okay.
Man, I really appreciate that opening statement. Appreciate that you actually came prepared with one. That seems to be rare this day and age. I don't know why. I've always come in prepared, but I don't know. Some people are that way. Alex, you have 7 minutes to respond. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'll be honest. I'm not really sure about what half the stuff you're talking about means. I'm not really sure what exactly you mean by modern liberal sexuality, but I guess we can explore that during the open dialogue. We might agree more than you think, or we might disagree more than you think, just depending on what exactly you consider modern liberal sexuality to be. I think I'm just going to try to make assumptions about what you're saying, and then we can explore that as we go along. So I think one of the assumptions you're saying is that it's not good to over-obsess about sexuality. I agree with that. That's probably not healthy. At the same time, repressing sexuality is not good. So there needs to be a healthy balance, just like with food, exercise, anything in life, it requires moderation and balance. So that's kind of how I view sex. I think we're going to be discussing casual sex and whatnot in the future. I think the position that casual sex is universally bad is just as cringe as saying casual sex is universally good. It comes down to the person, the place in their life where they're at. When I was in my 20s, I used to love having casual sex. Now in my 30s, I've gotten a bit bored with it. It's basically the same as having kids. To say, oh, it's bad to have kids or it's good to have kids. Well, it really depends. If you are 17 years old and you have a one-night stand with a girl who's not ready to be a mother, it's probably bad to get her pregnant. But if you're, 25, you have a career, you're with a woman you love, you want to start a family, then it's a good thing, right? So if we're going to apply this logic, like, hey, being kids is not universally good or universally bad. It depends on the person, what place of life they are at, where they can provide for those kids with a loving partner. That's kind of how I view casual sex. Some people are, do good with casual sex. Some people don't. For some people, it works for one point of their life, then they get bored with it. That seems to be pretty common in the pickup community. A lot of guys go through having a lot of casual sex in their 20s, and they kind of finish it, get out of their system, and they start getting into relationships in their 30s. And that's kind of what's happened with me. So my position on casual sex is neutral. I think, again, it can be a good thing, can be a bad thing, depends on who, how, where, and why. Just the same as having kids. But yeah, that's basically it. That's my opening statement.
All right. Appreciate that as well. And I'm sure you guys are eager to move into the open dialogue section. But before we do, I just want to remind everybody who's newly joining that you can send in a super chat via the Dono chat link, which is pinned at the top. Also know that we'll be taking call-ins tonight, post-debate. That way you can ask these debaters whatever questions you'd like. Hop in the Discord if you want to do that. Mods will be spamming out the Discord link. With that, gentlemen, the floor is open. Go ahead.
Yeah, Kyle. So I guess I'm kind of curious. What exactly do you mean by modern liberal sexuality?
I mean, the sexuality of, I guess, liberal people, although I think it kind of, I guess you would have to call people liberal to be behaving in a sexual manner that is, that fits in with modern times. But I don't know. I guess what I mean is the sexual behavior of people who exist in our culture today, right now.
Do you think that sexual behavior is like primarily limited to people who are liberal? Like, what about a conservative?
No.
Okay, so what about like a conservative person who has casual sex when they're in their 20s? Like, what would that be also part of the modern liberal sexuality?
Yes.
Okay, so liberal is not really a thing. It's more about modern sexuality, right?
No. A person who identifies as conservative today is behaving in a liberal manner when they are engaging in promiscuous sex and things like that.
When you say liberal, are you talking about political affiliation, or are you talking about
no,
like loosely, like just doing something?
More loosely, what I mean is, it is. What I mean is, I guess, in opposition to traditional values and a traditional way of life. And I would say that anybody who is in opposition to those things is inherently liberal.
Right, but you use the word liberal again, not politically, but use that like in its technical way, which is loosely. Okay, that's the first thing I think we got to clear up. So it's not a political thing at all. It's just purely.
It is kind of political, but it is less political.
Well, hang on, guys. Just to maybe I can add some clarification. Are you using this synonymously with progressive value structures? Is that what you're saying? These are progressive value structures?
Yeah, I mean that they definitely are progressive value structures. I mean, I don't think the word liberal is too important, to be honest with you. The word modern, I would say, is more important than the word liberal.
Well, there's three words: modern, liberal, sexuality. So, each one of those words carries some weight. But if you want to change it to modern sexuality, we can do that. I was just confused about the political side of it because there's a bunch of guys guys and women who are conservative, who behave in a very promiscuous way. There's a bunch of people who are liberal, who are not promiscuous. So liberal is not really a thing. It's just more like modern sexuality. And when you say modern sexuality, do you mean just promiscuity, just having a lot of casual sex, or what do you mean by that?
No, I mean, there's a lot of elements, to the modern, I don't know, just modern sexuality, if we're not calling it liberal. So that would be like hookup culture and dating. I would include things like homosexuality, transsexuality, abortion, things like that. I would say that all fits in with modern, the modern scheme of liberal sexuality.
Okay, I think we should focus on hookup culture and dating because the homosexuality and the transgender stuff is not really something I have a strong position on. So, okay, so I'm confused because you put hookup culture in there and dating. So, dating, I don't think has been associated with modern sexuality. People have been dating since the dawn of ages or for a long time. Like in the 50s, people wouldn't just get married; they would typically go on a few dates. So, when you say dating, can you qualify that? Do you mean like a specific type of dating, or you mean all dating in general?
I mean all dating in general, but I don't really understand the significance of it having existed forever.
Well, you're saying it's modern, but if it's been around forever, then it's not modern. It's
It
not
is
significant.
modern. It is modern. The way in which we date today is modern, like
But
by definition.
But do you think people didn't date 60 years ago?
I don't know how you were assuming that I would think that. Yes, I think that people dated 6,000 years ago. I think dating was a lot different, and that's the entire point.
Okay.
Dating 6,000 years ago was not modern. Dating today, where you're swiping right and swiping left and meeting people at bars, that is the modern incarnation of dating.
Yeah, sure. Again, I'm not trying to catch you. I just want to actually figure out your position before I start attacking it. Okay, so you're not talking about dating in general. You're talking about a specific type of dating that happens nowadays that didn't happen 60 years ago. So I guess maybe you could explain that to me a little bit more. What specifically, when it comes to dating, will you consider to be part of modern dating and not traditional dating?
Well, I mean, just you only have to go back to the sexual revolution. It just completely changed dating. The advent of birth control, things like that. It just completely changed the way that dating operates, between humans, because it erased the consequences. Any kind of consequence, they're just completely gone.
Yeah, so that was not really an answer to my question. I mean, like, can you give me some specific examples of how it changed, just so I know what you're talking about?
Birth control.
Okay, birth control is something that influenced dating, right? But how did the actual dating behavior change from traditional to modern? I just want to see what you consider exactly, because right now I'm not really sure what you mean by modern dating. I think I have a little bit of a rough idea, but I want to make sure I understand your position. So give me specific examples of how, you could say something like, actually,
aren't you a dating coach?
Yeah, but I don't know what's in your head. I know how.
No,
so I want to know
if it's encompassed in dating today, that's what we're talking about. I mean, I don't like I said, birth control changed things, and that changed it to where, like I said, women, there's no consequences at all. If you're pregnant.
What if there's someone like Andrew who's dating today in a traditional manner, the way they did 60 years ago? He gets married, he has kids. So then you would not say this is modern, right? But so you would not say that's modern dating then, even though he's dating today. But
yes, technically you would still say that it's modern dating because it's happening in modern day. But it is definitely, this is where the liberal does come into play. That type of a thing, this scenario where Andrew is dating and he's being conservative and traditional, it's still modern because it's happening today, but it's not liberal. This is not, like Andrew said, the progressive value structures. It's not a part of that.
Yeah, I'm still kind of confused what exactly you're talking about, honestly, because you're saying multiple different things.
Let's just say Tinder. Dude. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how, anything that has to do with modern dating today, that's what we're talking about. Do you like...
But no, because you just gave, Andrew's a modern person. He's not from the 50s, and he's dating today, and you would not classify that as, the modern dating that you don't like. So, okay, so it seems like you don't like dating apps, right? That's something you're morally against. What about someone who just meets someone at the street or at a bar in 2023? What would be your issue there? How do you think that would be modern dating versus traditional dating?
How do I think that would be modern dating? I mean, I'm not sure.
What I'm looking for is for you to give me specific things about modern dating, specific things like, oh, the guy no longer does this or the girl does this that you don't like, which you wish would return back to traditional dating. So I'm looking for specific examples how traditional dating is different. I'm not talking about things that influenced it, like birth control.
I mean, you could just say gender roles. The gender roles of, we used to have a set of roles for men and women that they adhered to. and now, those have been obliterated. So you have women who are not traditional women expecting, it's like when someone goes out on a date, a man and a woman go out on a date, who's paying the bill? Is it the traditional sense of the man is going to pay, but those gender roles have been obliterated. So in modern dating, I think that's bad. I think that we should abide by traditional gender roles. So I think that not abiding by those traditional gender roles is it's a disservice to us.
Well, I actually somewhat agree with you on that. I'm also a fan of like more or less sticking to the gender roles. But so then you would have no problem with like my relationship, because in my relationship, I'm clearly the guy, she's the girl. We basically stick to traditional gender roles for the most part, but it's a very modern relationship, and we met on a dating app. So as long as the gender roles are being applied, then you think it's okay?
Yeah, I think that aspect of it is okay. Sure.
Okay, so I'm just going to write things down as you go along. You mentioned dating apps. You mentioned not sticking to gender roles. What else?
As far as dating goes,
like what do you not like about modern dating that separates it from traditional dating, besides dating apps and not sticking to gender roles?
I don't like, the idea of talking to a girl, going out on dates with a girl, potentially spending my resources, for dinner or whatnot, and knowing that she's going to leave and be texting with other dudes, hooking up with other dudes. That's not good. I don't want to be a part of that at all. So that's another aspect of it.
You don't like cheating, right?
No, I don't like cheating.
Right. Well, I think that's common, but
I don't think that cheating is not really what I was talking about there, because when you're just talking to a girl, she doesn't really have any, in modern liberal sexuality, she doesn't really have any, there's no.
Okay, I think I understand.
She doesn't have to stay loyal to you, but I don't really.
You're talking about a girl playing the field. I think that's what you mean, right?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what you mean. Okay, girl playing the field. Okay, keep going. Give me a few more things. What else do you not like?
As far as dating goes, let's see here.
No, we'll just go go ahead.
No, I don't. I can't think of anything else specifically for dating off the top of my head.
Okay, cool.
I had hookup culture in there too, but
Okay, well, I'll throw that in there. Okay, so basically, here's what in your mind, and I'm just going to sum up your statements based on what I wrote down, separates modern dating from traditional dating. Modern dating you don't like, traditional dating you do like. Number one is hookup culture, so the idea of people just having sex with each other without any kind of commitment. Dating apps, the use of dating apps, not sticking to gender roles, and a girl playing the field. Those four things, right?
Sure. I mean, just off the top, it's not like I have a comprehensive list, but yeah, I don't like those things.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's an important thing for us to establish, right? So I guess let's start off with dating apps. That's an easy one to start off with. What if someone is using dating app to meet their future wife? Would that be okay then?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I don't think that dating apps are inherently bad. I'm sure that some people find meaningful relationships on dating apps. But the overall and the larger effect that it has on society, I think is negative.
What is that effect?
You have like basically 100% of women on the app competing for the top, 15, 20% of men. And it just completely throws off, it causes women to have this elevated sense of their sexual worth. And it causes men who should be matching with those people it just bottoms out their confidence. I think that all around it's just not a good system.
Sure.
And I also think that it encourages hookup culture. It obviously feeds into hookup culture.
Yeah, what you said earlier, I actually agree with. I do think that it does give girls a false ego, and it could make guys feel discouraged. You said 100% and it's 80%, but I understand what you're trying to get at. Yeah, it's a lot of girls are looking for a small percentage of men. And I would argue that's the way dating is in general, but I think it is worse on dating apps. But so you're not actually against date. It seems like you're not against dating apps. You're just against a certain type of people using dating apps in a certain type of way, which is in a promiscuous hookup culture type of way. So that dials back to the initial thing you're against is hookup culture. It's not so much you have a problem with dating apps, right?
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with dating apps inherently, but I basically do have a problem with dating apps because even if they aren't inherently bad, the effect that they're having on society is inherently bad.
Well, what if there's a whole bunch of people who are meeting their husband and wife on dating apps?
I think that it's a possibility for people to meet, have meaningful relations from a dating app, but I don't think it's the best way of doing it. I think that they would probably be better off if we could, take our attention from the dating apps to other ways of meeting people.
What do you think would be a better way for a guy to meet girls or vice versa?
Going out there, being out in the world, talking to people.
Yeah, talking to people in real life, sure. And I would actually probably agree with you on that. But in terms of, I don't know if you're saying it's not likely for that you meet your significant other, but like just anecdotally, I met my girlfriend on a dating app. My cousin met her now husband and father of her kid on a dating app. My aunt met her now fiance and dating app. I mean, anecdotally, I know so many people who met people that they're.
But what's happening more? Are people meeting their significant others more often, or is it, just a meat market?
So it really depends on the dating app, right? So something like Tinder is definitely more of a meat market. If you go to something like Hinge, it's a little bit more of like dating oriented. If you go something to like eHarmony, it's like very much dating oriented. So it really just depends on the app.
Which one of those is the most popular, do you think?
Tinder used to be the most popular. I think it's losing ground now to Bumble and Hinge, but Tinder used to be the dominant one for a long time. But it's slowly starting to lose ground. But it's probably still
slowly starting, but it's probably still the most popular one.
It's up there.
And the fact that more people may potentially find significant other, serious relationships on Bumble and Hinge doesn't mean that the hookup is not happening on Bumble and Hinge too. It's still plenty of that, I would assume.
So you would need to see for it to be like, for example, if you got a statistic from like Tinder's internal team that 51% of people who use our apps use it to get married, 49% of them use it for hookups. Would you then be okay with it? Or what percentage of hookup to serious relationships would you want to see for you to be okay with Tinder? I
mean, ideally for me, no hookups is I know that's unrealistic, but as few hookups as possible is what I think we should be going for.
Right. But like, let's say you are someone who has a lot of power and your endorsement matters a lot, right? So what would Tinder have to do to get your endorsement? I'm assuming if it's like 99% relationships and 1% hookups, you would endorse them or no?
I don't know what they would have to do for me to endorse them.
What's like 99.9% of people on Tinder are meeting their husbands and 0.1% of them are using it for hookups. Would you then?
Yeah, I guess in that hypothetical scenario, yes, I would feel better about Tinder, but
would you endorse it? Would you change your position and say, I have an inherent problem with Tinder if that was the case?
I guess that I would change my position, but I don't know. I mean, like in that scenario, you would have to take other things into consideration, like, how those relationships are working out. Are they, polyamorous relationships? I don't think that that's good. There could be a whole bunch of factors that make it to where that I think it's still not good. Just saying they all end up in relationships.
Let's try to control for all those factors. Let's assume that a Tinder relationship on average is exactly the same as a meeting a girl in real life relationship. Let's assume on average they're the same.
Sure. Okay.
So at that point, if it's 99% of meeting relationships, 1% of them are hookups, you would have no inherent problem with Tinder.
I guess not. No.
Okay. What if it's 90-10?
90-10. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I know that the hookups is never going to be zero. And like I said, I just think that in general, there are better ways to meet people. I don't understand the line of questioning on whether I approve of Tinder in this hypothetical scenario.
Well, it's a very important line of questioning because every technological advancement carries downsides. So internet has overwhelmingly, you would agree, internet overwhelmingly has been good for the human civilization, right?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Would you agree that internet on the whole has been positive for the human civilization?
I think that it's more of a mixed bag than that, to be perfectly honest with you.
Okay, would you agree that modern medicine has been a net positive on human civilization?
Sure.
Okay, right. But there's some downsides of modern medicine. Like some people get side effects and die, which is why percentages really matter, right? If it's like, okay, I would want modern medicine to be 99% effective before I would get behind it, right? So that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out now, because every single thing has negative side effects. Every technological innovation will have some negative downsides. So I want to figure out where exactly your position is. Where do you draw the line when it comes to the side effect or the negative downsides in your mind compared to the positive effects?
I don't really draw a line. All I think is that we need to be getting away from the things that Tinder and dating apps are driving us toward.
But not if 99% of people on Tinder met their husband on there or wife.
Yeah, but that's not the truth. That is not how things are.
Right. Well, as of now, we don't really know what percentage of people meet their husbands versus fuck buddies on Tinder. I guess I just want to figure out where it is in your mind. It seems like you don't really have like a clear answer on this. For example, for me, if
yes,
I
don't. You're right. I don't have a clear answer on the percentage mark on where I draw the line on when I think that Tinder is good. And
I'm not going to hold you to an exact number. I just want to get like a ballpark.
Yeah, no, I don't. There is no line. I mean, because it's a hypothetical, and that's not how things are.
Hang on. Where are we going here, guys? Whatever the thread is, we need to tie it up, because I don't understand what the line of inquiry is about. If you want to move into it, I'm fine with it, but tie it into whatever the greater point is.
Yeah. So he mentioned 4 things that he doesn't like about modern liberal sexuality. One of those was dating apps. So I'm pushing him on that point to see if maybe under certain conditions he would be in favor of dating apps. That's where I'm going with this.
I mean, I'm in favor of people using dating apps for the right reasons. For reasons of meeting a significant other, I think that's fine. You should do that. It's not so much, it's not so much the purpose of the app. It's the, I guess, the intentions of the people using the app.
Okay. So it sounds like you're not really inherently against dating apps. You're just against.
I said that. I explicitly said that.
Okay. Because you kind of keep going back and forth on this. Like I'm
no, I don't. No,
okay.
I don't.
Okay, so you're not inherently against dating apps. Okay, we can move off that one. So the next one is a girl playing the field. So I would pose the question like this: what about if the gender roles are reversed? Like meaning, like you're a guy, right? You met a girl, for the first time. Let's say Tinder, or you met her at a bar. You guys went on one date. Nothing happened yet. At that point, should you cut off all the other girls you're talking to in your life and just focus on her?
When I'm talking to people, I talk to them one at a time. I mean, I'm not spinning a bunch of plates.
So if you go on one date with a girl, you will cut off every single other girl in your life?
If I am going on a date with a girl and I, am taking it seriously, yeah, I won't be talking to anyone else.
Well, I'm not talking about taking it seriously. Taking it seriously typically doesn't happen on the first date. That happens much later. I'm just talking about you go on one date. You went on one date with a girl. Would you cut out all the other girls in your phone?
Well, I mean, so generally, I don't like I said, I don't have a bunch of plates spinning. It's not like if I start talking to one girl, I have to text a bunch of other girls. Like I said, I don't have that element of multiple people. It's not something that is a factor in my life.
Okay, let me pose the question like this. Let's say tomorrow you go out to a bar and you meet 2 awesome girls. Both of them you really like. One of them is named Stacy. One of them is named Amy. You have a date with Amy on Monday. The date goes pretty well. You guys talk. Nothing sexual happens, but you think it's a good date. Would you at that point cut Stacy out of your life, or would you keep talking to Stacy?
So I mean, On the date that I went on with Amy, like I mean, what are we talking about here? Like,
You guys had a pretty good date. You guys vibed. You guys talked. You guys did not have sex. It was a pretty good date though overall. Like you guys just you chatted.
Yeah,
right?
see, that's where it is. That's the problem. Is no, if I'm just talking to a person, no, I wouldn't. I don't feel a need to, text all these other people, all these other girls, and tell them, hey, I'm talking to someone. When it crosses the line of becoming physical, which ideally wouldn't be happening until marriage, anyways. That's the point. When it becomes a serious relationship and you have those intentions, at that point, yes, I would have to divulge that to all the other girls.
So you said when it gets physical, and you said ideally that wouldn't happen until marriage. So then would you still be talking to these other girls right up until marriage?
No. Like I said, once it becomes serious and you realize that is a potential outcome, that is the point at which you have to divulge that.
So once it gets serious. So we don't actually necessarily disagree on this point. Basically, the reason you would not divulge that until a relationship gets serious is because you want to keep your one foot in the door, right? You're still kind of playing the field. So I think that if your question to me is like, hey, do you think a girl should still be talking to multiple guys while she's in a serious relationship? I'm going to tell you, no, I don't think guys or girls should be doing that. But initially you made it seem like that, like, oh, a girl goes on a date with a guy and she's still talking to other guys. Well, that's no different than what you're doing in this hypothetical that I'm giving you. So both parties are playing the field.
No, I said, when we were talking about this initially, that I don't want to be going out, taking girls to dinner and then having her leave and fucking, the dude that she's got, that she texts every night.
Well, what about not fucking, just chatting with other guys?
I guess it depends on the content of the conversation, but
it's a romantically charged conversation.
Yeah, no, I don't want that. I'm not interested in talking to women who are doing that.
But in the hypothetical I gave you, you said you would be doing that until a relationship got serious.
Not like, when you say romantically charged, I guess, what do you mean by that?
Like flirting.
I see. I guess it just depends on, the severity level of the flirting. I don't really know. I mean, that would be
certain types of flirting you'd be okay with, but certain types of flirting you would not be okay with.
People are just kind of flirty in general. Like you might flirt with a waitress and it's not anything serious at all. But yeah, I mean, I think that talking to somebody with the intent of, exploring to see if there's something more serious there. If you are already in that with someone else, yeah, that's that. I'm not interested in that.
Well, I agree with you. If you're in a relationship with a girl, or for the girl's perspective, relationship with a guy, it is unacceptable to be flirting with other people. So we're in full agreement there. I guess let me flip the scenario like this. So Kyle, a girl that you meet a girl, you meet Amy on Friday. Amy met you on Friday and she met Andrew. Andrew is now single in this hypothetical, right? She meets both of you. She goes on a date with you, right? Nothing physical happens, but you guys have a good connection. And then you find out that she's texting with Andrew.
Never go on a date after she had gone on a date with me, Alex. Okay. So you need to reframe the hypothetical.
I don't want to use myself, but anyway, we're going to use a hypothetical version of Andrew that doesn't exist. So she goes on this hypothetical date so she's still texting back and forth with Andrew. They're flirting a little bit, but she went on a date with you. Would you then have a problem with that?
Because ideally, yeah, I don't want that. If I'm talking to somebody, my intention is to find a partner to marry, and that is what I am. That's what I would be hoping. The energy would be reciprocated from the other person.
But you just said earlier that you would still be talking to other girls up until the point the relationship got serious.
Yeah, like I said, though, I am not spinning a bunch of plates. I have girls who are friends, and I'm not going to text them and be like, hey, I have this girl who I'm like serious with now. I can't talk to you anymore.
We're not talking about friends. We're talking about
okay. Yeah, I know. So my point is that I don't have a bunch of plate spinning, and I don't want a girl who's got a bunch of plate spinning.
Right. Just because you don't have plates right now doesn't mean that you would not
Yes, it does.
But you said earlier that you would not cut it off until the relationship got serious. So did you think I was talking about platonic things? Because I wasn't. I was talking about things where there's an obvious like sexual or romantic intent involved. So you would cut off all those girls after the first date.
After the first date with the girl that I like? What?
You go on a first date with Amy, right? You met Stacy that same night. You and Stacy are flirting over text. So after that first date with Amy, would you completely cut off Stacy?
Yeah, if that date went really well and off of one date, I can tell that this is a person who I would seriously consider having a long-term relationship with, yes.
Okay, but if the date went like moderately well, then the answer would be no.
Well, in that case, it's not a person who I would consider having a long-term serious relationship with. So yes, the answer would be no.
Okay, so what if we flip it? What if a girl, that you said you don't like when a girl does that, but let's say you go on one date with a girl and she's not sure about you. She likes you. She thinks you're cool. She likes that your nickname is Based Fat Chad. She likes that you debate, but she doesn't have that like, I want to lock this guy down forever vibe. She's like, yeah, I want to keep dating him and see how it goes. Would then that be problematic that she's texting with a hypothetical Andrew?
I mean, so we went on the date. She liked me, but is not like blown away. She's not 100% yet. No. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It like, would I be irritated if she's still texting other guys? I guess it depends on how I feel about her.
Let's say you like her, right? You like her a lot, but you're not 100% sold on her because you've only had one date. So you don't fully know her. I'm assuming, Kyle, you would not commit to a girl after one date. You want to like feel her out a little more. Yeah, exactly. So you're like that. You're like, hey, she seems cool.
Okay, hang on, guys. I've humored this for a while, so I'm going through my notes here. I'm still not exactly sure how this ties into sexual culture and modernity. I'm not sure how this ties into modern sexual culture. If you want to tie this thread together, Alex, I'm not intervening to take you off of your inquiry, but I would like to see you actually tie it into the broader debate topic if you could.
Yeah, sure. I'll do that right now. So the point I'm trying to establish is that the 4 components that Kyle mentioned that he doesn't like about modern dating, he doesn't actually dislike them. He only dislikes certain things about them. And with some of them, he actually doesn't even really mean it. Like, for example, with dating apps, it's not that he inherently dislikes dating app. He just dislikes
which I said.
Yeah, now that's a fair point because we are talking about sexuality and modernity, and that's his line of inquiry.
Yeah, so he earlier said that he doesn't like a girl playing the field, right? But that's why I'm asking the hypotheticals, because it seems like he would still kind of play the field after the first date. And it seems like he doesn't really have a strong position on whether it's okay for a girl to be playing the field after the first date.
I've said clearly that I think once the intention becomes, really seeing this person as someone you could be serious with, that is when, that I am not comfortable with people playing the field.
Sure. And I agree with you on that. But how many days does it take for that to happen typically? It's not going to happen on the first date, right?
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, it's going to take a few dates for things to become serious. So I agree with you, right? Like, once things but that's not really your issue. Then isn't with a girl playing the field after just like engaging in one date. Your issue is with a girl playing the field once she's in a serious relationship, and that's something very different.
No, once you're in a serious relationship, you're obviously not playing the field anymore. But I, personally, for my preferences, when you're feeling each other out, I would still prefer that you're not talking to a bunch of other dudes, not hooking up with your ex, things like that.
Sure. And so would you reciprocate that same energy?
100%.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
is that a surprise to you that there are like people out there who are like not interested in fucking a bunch of people?
No, not at all.
Okay, so I mean, like, I just don't understand.
I've known Andrew for a year. Obviously, I understand like your guys' point of view. No, it's just, again, I'm not surprised by anything you're saying. I just want to see where exactly you draw the line. What do you consider playing the field? It seems like if a girl went on one date with you, right, and she's still talking to another guy, then you don't consider that playing the field. You consider playing the field to be something that once the relationship starts getting physical or serious.
I mean, I guess it's still playing the field, but playing the field is acceptable before that point.
Right, and you're cool with it.
Before that point, I'm cool with women talking to people, but I don't think, like I said, if it's that you're, so if I go on a first date with somebody and I'm expending time and energy and resources and, trying to see if that it works in the beginning phases, I still ideally don't want you to, if that person is leaving and, like I said, texting their ex and hooking up with them that night, if I know that, that's an automatic, not even considering it.
Well, that's a little bit different than playing the field. That's like still being involved with someone, right? That's a little bit different.
Okay. So then let's take that out of there. Let's say that she gets done with the date for me, and she, as soon as she gets in her car, she starts swiping and she hooks up with a dude. That also would be an immediate dismissal.
You don't want a girl who's gonna fuck some other dude after going on a date with you. I mean, yeah, I think most guys would.
I don't want a girl who's going to be fucking dudes like generally. I'm not. If I was talking to a girl and she's like, "Oh yeah, I hook up fairly frequently," I would not be interested at all.
Okay, so do you want a girl who's like a virgin, or like what kind of a girl do you want?
Low body count.
What do you consider low body count? Like under what?
I think that it kind of depends on age. I'm not one of these people who thinks that, if you're 33 and you've got, when you were younger, you racked up some bodies, that you're like an automatically bad person and that you should just be, tossed to the side. That's not how I feel. But yeah, just the lower, the better generally.
Okay. But like 5 would be okay, right?
I would be okay with 5. If you're, I don't plan on talking to many 18-year-olds, but if you're 18 and it's 5, maybe that's like more concerning. But if you're 30 and it's 5, I don't think that's that big of a deal.
Okay. So what if you go on a date with a girl, right? Nothing physical happens. A few days later, she goes on another date with a guy and she sleeps with him, and she had a body count of 1. Now her body count is 2. Would that be then acceptable?
Wait, I'm sorry. Could you say that again?
Sure. So let's say you go on a date with a girl, right? You guys have a good date, but nothing physical happens. A few days later, she goes on a date with another guy and she sleeps with him, but her body count's only 1. So now her body count went from 1 to 2. Would then you be okay with that?
No, I wouldn't be okay with that. Not necessarily because of the body count, but because she's actively hooking up with random dudes from the internet.
Okay, fair enough. So I think we covered, in terms of sticking to gender roles, we agree. So I don't think there's any point pursuing that one. Let's get into now hookup culture. So what exactly is your issue with hookup culture?
1 second here. I'm sorry. I think that it is, like we were talking about earlier with the large percentage of women competing over a tiny percentage of men. I don't think that is, beneficial to society at all. I don't think, and we were just talking about body counts a minute ago. I don't think that having lots of sexual partners is good for individuals, and things that are not good for individuals are not good for societies.
So what if hookup culture was more egalitarian, meaning like everyone was getting laid who wanted to? So like there was no like some guys are getting massive amounts of pussy, some guys are getting What if it was like anyone who wants to participate can get laid, right? If it was
that's not the that's not the hang up for me, is that some people aren't getting laid.
So what is
that really? The hang up is I'm sure you've talked about the pair bonding, the damage done to particularly women's ability to pair bond after multiple sexual partners. That's the type of thing that I have the problem with in regards to hookup culture.
Yeah, have you like looked into the science on that?
Somewhat.
Because the science on that is very dubious. It's not a scientific consensus.
It doesn't seem that dubious to me. I mean, I know that there's like a bump in the middle where, abstinence is best. Then there's like a slight bump, but then it like returns completely to form. So I don't know. It just doesn't seem that dubious to me.
Well, I mean, if there was a direct, okay. So you're talking about the Institute of Family Studies survey that was done. Okay, so let's just go off that one. That's not actually what I was talking about, but so Right. So kind of for anyone who's not familiar with it, this is measuring a woman's chance of divorcing you. So when it's 0, it's like 12%. Then when it goes up to 1, it's like 20%. When it goes up to 2, it's like, I don't know, 30% or something like that. Don't hold me to these numbers. The interesting thing that happens is when it goes from 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 4 to 6, it drops down to like 22%, right? So it drops. And then once it gets to 9s, it bottoms out and starts going up again. So I guess like you would expect, if there's a direct correlation between, pair bonding and body count, that it would always keep going like this. It would either go like this or keep going like this. But why would it go like this?
I'm not really sure why that dip is there. Like I said, I don't know why that's there, but the rest of the graph is completely in line. I mean, there's that one anomaly, but then the rest of it plays out exactly like you would expect it to.
Well, it's not one anomaly though. It's body count 3, 4, 5. There's like 7 anomalies.
I'm not looking at the graph right now, so I have no idea. But if I remember correctly, there is like a trajectory to it. There might be dips, there might be peaks and valleys, but there's a general trajectory to it.
Okay, let me ask you this question. What if I showed you like a scientific study from something that really, a journal that you really respect, that you validity believe, that shows you that there's absolutely no correlation between what's the term? What's the term that you use? Pair bonding? Pair bonding and body count. What if I showed you that? Would that change your position completely on hookup culture?
No.
So then it's not really about the pair bonding for you.
Well, that's a part of it.
Okay. So what are the other parts of it?
1 second here. I don't think that I just don't think that it's good for people's self-esteem. I think that, you get lots of men being rejected, lots of women being, not necessarily rejected physically, but rejected in the sense that a lot of men aren't going to want to be in relationships with them. I don't think it's good in general.
Yeah. So when you say it's not good for self-esteem, where are you getting the information from? Is that anecdotal or is there some specific study?
Yeah, it's anecdotal. No, it's anecdotal. And I think that there's definitely value to anecdotal evidence. I mean, sure. I think that most people, when I say that hookup culture is not good for a lot of people's confidence, I think that most people just kind of inherently know what I mean by that.
I think I have an idea what you mean, but again, I don't want to straw man your position, so I want to figure out exactly what you believe. Okay, so what kind of anecdotal evidence are we talking about? Like, meaning like you went out and you hooked up with a bunch of girls and you felt like it was bad for your self-esteem? Or where's this like information coming from? It was one of your friends? Like, where are you getting this information from?
It's through, like the common sense that when people are rejected, it doesn't make you feel good.
But you said it's anecdotal. You didn't say it's through common sense. So what's the anecdote? Are we referencing your own anecdotes, the anecdotes of your friends? Where are the anecdotes coming from?
The anecdotes are coming from common sense. I mean, it's like
it's not an answer. Anecdotes cannot come from common sense.
Yeah, you can derive an anecdote from the common sense that when people are rejected, it's not good for their self-esteem.
Let's just pull up the definition of anecdotes because we're talking about two different things right now. Okay,
we're not though. I mean, like you have a random guy and he gets rejected. Is that good for his self-esteem?
Oh, we can talk about that. But you were using the word. You said your evidence is anecdotal. The definition of anecdote is a short, amusing, or interesting story about a real incident or person. So
so make up a story, a little anecdote about a guy named Jimmy. Jimmy walks up to
Kyle. It has to be about a real person or situation. That's the key word, real.
Okay, so there's this guy named Jimmy. I'm sure that there's been a guy named Jimmy, and he's asked a girl out, and she said no, and that made that affected his self-esteem negatively.
So you don't actually have anecdotal evidence.
Yeah, I do have anecdotal evidence. I have asked girls out and been rejected, and it doesn't feel good. But my point is that comes from common sense. Like, it's obvious that when you get rejected, it negatively affects your self-esteem.
Yeah, we can talk about the common sense part of it. I just want to clarify. Common sense, like justifications, are very different than anecdotal justifications. Anecdotal is like, hey, I did this, or hey, this happened to my friend. That's what anecdotal is. It sounds
I
like
know what anecdotal evidence is. I'm saying that
you don't have any.
you don't. It's my point, dude. My entire point is that I don't have to have specific anecdotes because you know that there are millions of anecdotes that would fit into that category.
No, I don't know that.
Okay, you don't know that when people get rejected, that it negatively affects their self-esteem.
Well, I think that
you don't know that.
Well, I think that some people develop a lower self-esteem from hookup culture and promiscuity. I think for other people, like for myself, for example, it led me to develop a higher self-esteem because I became much more resilient, right? So I became very resilient to rejection. And that led for me to develop a lot of confidence and belief in myself. So I think it could go either way. I would need to see some kind of proof that, hookup culture is causing more people to have lower self-esteem than for that to, actually help them. So what common sense is for you is not going to be the same thing as common sense for me because we have two totally different set of life experiences.
Yeah, I understand that you can take that rejection and use it to build yourself up. But what I was saying is that the anecdotes, you can derive those from common sense. That was the whole point of that. It's like you don't need specific anecdotes of reality. You just know that is the case.
You can't derive anecdotes from common sense. Anecdotes are stories that happen either to you or someone you know. They cannot come from common sense.
Can't. Okay. All right.
Like if I'm trying to make an argument that, for example, smoking is bad. Andrew's like, well, why is smoking bad? And let's say, well, I don't have any scientific evidence, but I have anecdotal evidence that smoking is bad. He's like, okay, well, who did it happen to? You, your friend? I'm like, no, I just got it from common sense. That's not me giving him an anecdote. There's nothing anecdotal about that.
You couldn't derive from common sense that there are millions of anecdotes of people smoking and getting lung cancer?
You could potentially come to that conclusion, but then that wouldn't be anecdotal evidence. That would be something that you just imagined.
I would say that is millions of instances of anecdotal evidence.
Well, I could just say, do you see the problem with this line of reasoning? I could say, well, there's a million instances of someone trying hookup culture and having more positive self-esteem, right? Do you see how that line of thinking doesn't lead us anywhere?
Yeah, so I mean, I can see. I can definitely see what you're saying, but I do think that, like I said, lots of people they have their self-esteem negatively affected by rejection. That seems like a fairly common sense thing. Now, the effect of that rejection, that's open to interpretation. But again, like I said, the negative effect of rejection from self-esteem, that seems like something common sense and that you could derive millions of anecdotes, from common sense on that.
Sure. And I agree with you that there's probably a lot of cases where, okay, I'm not going to keep harping on that anecdote thing. We can move past that. I'm sure you can definitely imagine a bunch of situations where someone got rejected. It took a toll on their self-esteem. The real question, the question I would be interested in, I don't actually have a good answer to this, is overwhelmingly, does that later become a positive or negative, right? Like, for example, someone could, get fired from their first job, which may seem like a negative experience, but that causes them to start their own business, right? And they become more successful as a result, which means that the overwhelming thing, the net effect was positive, right? So I guess the question I would have, I don't know if you have a good answer to that, is do you have any kind of evidence to suggest that overwhelmingly rejection leads to a negative long-term effect?
No, I don't have any evidence in the form of studies or anything like that. But I mean, you look at the amount of men who are just completely checking out of dating. Why do you think what do you think that's all about?
You're talking about incels?
I guess. Yeah. I mean, MGTOW.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of reasons. I think that number one is they don't have any resilience, so they give up really quick. I do think that rejection was definitely a part of it. I think they probably tried a few times. They got rejected. And instead of pushing through it, right? And overcoming the obstacle, they just gave up. I think a lot of it is lack of willpower, lack of discipline, poor influences, being surrounded by the wrong kind of people. I mean, I think there's.
But the point with the dating and the 80% of women competing over the 10% of men, that's just rejection over and over again for a lot of these people.
You're talking about Tinder. I'm talking about real life now. It's not like that in real life, right? Like most people date within their socioeconomic group. So like the average girl isn't dating a rich dude. She's dating someone who's in her same socioeconomic class.
I don't understand the relevance of that.
Because you said that 80 or 90% of women are going for 10% of guys, right? But that's not actually the case in real life, because most women actually wind up dating someone who's on the same level as them.
Yeah, it just becomes about different things at that point, though. Maybe it's not about it's not about money at that point, but it becomes about. I mean, I think to some degree it still is about money, but it becomes about physical attractiveness, things like that.
So, do you believe that like the average guy is way more attractive than the average girl in a relationship? I guess I'm trying to figure out where that statement is coming from when you say 90% of women are going for 10% of guys outside of dating apps in the real world. And like the one piece of like scientific evidence I can tell you is when surveyed, typically the majority of people date within their socioeconomic class. So that would take money out of the picture. So then that leads us to think, what else could it be? Could it be looks? So then my question is, do you think it's looks? Do you think that most guys are much better looking than their girlfriend? Or do you think it's something else?
No. So when I was saying that that it's just rejection after rejection, I was talking about dating apps. I didn't realize that we'd switched over to talking about specifically, in real life dating. But I do still think that there's an element of that. I think that a lot of, in hookup culture, whether it's in person or in real life, I think you have a lot of people, a lot of women who are, aiming higher than they probably should be.
Sure. And I think that's a generally true statement. But what characteristics, the guys who you say are in the top 10% of the women they're chasing, what characteristics do you think those guys have? Like what makes them a top 10%?
What makes them top 10%? Money, looks, things like that.
Okay. So
personality.
Okay. Yeah. Personality. Like you mean game and social skills?
Sure.
Okay. So we know it's not money since most people date within their socioeconomic class. So we can scratch that one off the list. So if it's looks, then that would imply that in the majority
do most people hook up within their socioeconomic status?
Yeah, people tend to date, hook up, fuck within their socioeconomic status. There's a small percentage of girls, who do like fucking, just fuck billionaires and shit like that and celebrities. That's a tiny percentage of girls. Most girls, just even looking at like anecdotally in my experience, I've hooked up with like countless girls. Most of them have been within my socioeconomic class.
So a woman who is, she's toying with the idea of hooking up with a guy who is a car salesman, a moderately successful car salesman. And the other guy she's toying around with the idea of hooking up with is the guy who owns the car lot. You don't think that money is making a difference in that scenario?
Most women are not deciding logically who they're going to have sex with. It's an emotional decision. It's not based on logic. So it really is going to come down to how do those guys make her feel? How does the car salesman make her feel? Does he make her feel good? Does he make her feel very feminine? Does he make her feel giddy? Right. So that's really what it comes down to. And also timing and location. Right. So girls typically are not looking at, especially short-term dating like hookups, logically. They're looking at from an emotional perspective.
I think that there's some truth to that, but I also don't think that it's completely not based on logic. I think logic plays a factor in it.
No, I think that hookup decisions for women is definitely predominantly emotional. There's maybe small logic if the guy like looks like a serial killer or like gives off serial killer vibes, then she might like Google him or something like that. But it's predominantly an emotional decision. Sex is a predominantly emotional decision, which is why, for example, like let's say I'm like super duper successful, right? Well, I mean, I'm pretty successful, right? So let's say I show up on a date now and I start telling the girl, I'm like, hey, listen, I have 140,000 subscribers on YouTube. I make six figures. I have a big penis. I'm really funny. I'm really great in bed. Do you think that's going to lead to a good outcome? Like, do you think she's going to I'm going to logic her into fucking me?
Do I think you're going to logic? You're going to
Yeah, like,
logic her into fucking you?
Do you think me saying that will help win her over, or do you think that will turn her off?
If you list all of those things off for her, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on the type of girl, but generally, no, I don't. I don't think that is going to make you look incredibly positive.
Do you think it'll be negative?
Depends on the girl, but yeah, a lot. Yeah, I think sometimes yes, it would be a negative.
Okay,
but that's because it comes off as like, being a braggart.
Right. And so how do you seduce a girl then, right? You're not going to do it by logically telling her reasons why she should sleep with you or date you. You're going to do it by emotionally.
Do you tell people, when you tell people things, do you just tell them explicitly straight out, hey, I'm rich as fuck, or do you kind of show them that?
Well, I don't do either one of those things because I don't like to leverage my money in order to meet women.
Yeah, but people who do.
I think people do both, honestly. I think that I've interviewed like hundreds of girls at this point. I've dated a lot of girls, and I've heard both. A lot of guys are just very explicit about it. They just like fucking say it straight out. Hey, by the way, I make 7 figures, or hey, by the way, I just signed this big contract. And some guys are a little bit more like on the showing side, right? But typically still comes off obvious. Wait, hang on, I gotta grab something from the Lamborghini. Can you walk me to my Lambo? Typically, that's how like a lot of rich guys are running around.
Okay, but I mean,
and that typically winds up turning women off.
Yeah, but like I said, if you're talking to someone and you're trying to get across that you have, means, you're not just going to say it a lot of the time. Like you said, some people do, but if a person doesn't and you just show that to a person, do you think that has no effect on a person's, on their decision whether or not to hook up with someone?
Oh, I think it depends on the girl. For some girls it does, some girls it doesn't. But yeah. I think the majority of girls, it's not going to have a substantial effect. No. The only thing that's an exception to that is status or fame or clout. So if you do show the girl that you have a lot of status, fame, or clout, then that will play a substantial role. But aside from status and fame, we're talking about things like money and resources, then no. I think for the majority of girls, it's not going to have a substantial effect. For a small percentage of girls, it will have a substantial effect. But for most girls, most normal girls, the kind of girls that you want to be in a relationship with anyway, it's not going to play that big of a role. And I speak that from experience. But okay, anyway, well, let me let me just get through a few more questions. And I know I've been like fucking asking you questions the whole time. Then you can ask me questions as long as you want. We're talking about wait, let me get back on track. So what we were talking before you asked me that question, we were talking about self-esteem related to rejection. I think that's what we were discussing. So just once again to reiterate, is there any kind of evidence that you have that rejection predominantly results in a lower self-esteem, or this is just like your thought?
No, like I said, I think it's common sense that rejection has a negative effect on people's self-esteem. Again, what like continued rejection, what you do with that, how that motivates you, and what, whether you build yourself up. Like you said, I forget what exactly. Oh, you said it made you more resilient. Yeah. That's fine, but that's not how it works for everyone. Some people it plays out positively for, some people it plays out not so positively for.
Yeah, you're right. Some people it's positive, some people it's negative, right? But I'm assuming your assumption is that for most people it's negative, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that most of the time it has a negative impact on people's self-esteem. Yes.
And once again, do you have any kind of evidence for that? Like anecdotal, anything that you can reference at all? Is it purely like, well, this is kind of what I think?
It's just what I think.
Okay. So you're familiar with the evidence hierarchy, right? There's studies at the very top and the certain types of studies, right? So anecdotes are near the bottom, but they're not I would say that anecdotes are above this is randomly what I think. So my anecdotal evidence is that I've seen how rejection has made me more confident and has improved my self-esteem because it made me a lot more resilient. I've seen that with countless other people. So that's why I'm having a hard time coming around to your worldview, because I've seen anecdotally countless times of how rejection actually at the end, not right away, right? Because right away it kind of stings a little bit, but long term turned out to be a positive thing.
Positive in what way?
It made the person overcome whatever obstacle they had. It made them more successful. It made them more confident in themselves. It made them more assertive. It made them have higher self-esteem. I mean, yeah, the list is endless.
So being rejected by women caused all of those things to happen, through coaching and whatnot. That's what you're saying.
Well, so like for example, when I first started like picking up girls or trying to do pickup, right? It was around like, I don't know, when I was 21 years old, right? First time I went out there and I got rejected and it was painful. I'm not going to deny that, right? And then I sat down that night and I'm like, okay, do I want to give up or do I want to push through the pain? I think I'm going to push through the pain. And I kept doing it. And I started getting like incrementally better results, right? And through just processing all that rejection, I was able to develop a big shield and become very resilient, which is why when I started my business in 2017, and I had all that resilience. I don't want to bore you with the specifics, but let's just say when I started my business, I had like 5 different like fucking setbacks within a span of 2 months. I had Tinder trying to sue me. I had Stripe canceling me. I had Facebook banning me. I mean, dude, it was like issue after issue after issue, right? If I didn't have that resilience that I developed around 2012, 2013, I probably would have given up and gone back to having a corporate job. Because I had massive amounts of resilience, right? I was able to push through that and now have a successful business. So that's kind of an anecdote of how rejection actually helped me long term.
Okay. So in terms of dating specifically, would you say that it made you more resilient in that way too?
Absolutely.
Do you think that is how most people, come away from that?
I don't know. I honestly do not know. I'm not trying to be obtuse. I really don't have an answer to that question. I haven't seen any studies about it. Anecdotally, I've seen more people have a positive effect from it, but then there's a massive sample bias because I'm talking to certain type of people. So I really don't know.
So I don't think that it has to be that a majority of the people who experience rejection negatively, it doesn't have to be that a majority of them like shut down and choose to not engage in dating. But if enough of a sizable enough portion of them choose to disengage, I think that is a net negative for society.
But what if it's like rejection is positive for 75% of people, but it's negative for 25% of people? Would we then say rejection is bad? No, we'd probably say it's good because the majority of people, it helps.
Well, I mean, I don't, first of all, I don't think that the numbers would play out like that. And I'm sorry.
It's just a hypothetical.
Yeah, I understand. But I mean, I don't really understand the point of the hypothetical.
Well, it's very important because the point you made earlier was that, it doesn't have to be the majority, it just has to be a sizable part of the population. But I don't really know if you believe that or not. And that's why I'm asking the hypothetical, because if you're like, no, even if 25% of people are getting rejected, and even though 75% of people are having success, that's still a bad thing, then that's a different disagreement I have with you. But if you're like, no, actually, if 75% of people are having a good effect, then I'll be like, okay, well, we agree on that. So then you don't really believe that it doesn't have to be a majority. You do believe it has to be a majority. So it's one of, you can go in one of two directions here. And that's going to determine how I'm going to, what I'm going to debate you about. Are you not following?
No, I'm not really following you, to be honest with you.
It would just be easier if you answer the question and I'll tie it in.
Okay, ask the question again.
Okay, if you found out that rejection benefits 75% of people who get rejected, it has a net positive effect on their life, and for 25% of people, it has a net negative effect, would you then be okay with rejection? Or you still think it's bad?
Yeah, I don't. I honestly don't know how to answer that question.
Well, it's really easy. Either yes, no, or here's my alternative explanation. I'll answer the question first. Yes, if I found out that 75% of people benefit from rejection, 25% don't benefit, then I would think rejection is a good thing.
I think that if 25% of people experiencing that rejection completely check out of dating and finding partners, then yeah, I think that's still bad.
But what if 75% of people achieve a level of success they could have never imagined? They get into a relationship with a beautiful woman they could have never attracted. They start a very successful business. They develop a really great social circle. What if 75% of people have a really good effect?
Then that's good for them, but it's still bad for the 25%.
But I know it's bad for the 25%, but overall, as a concept, is rejection then good or bad, or is it neutral?
It's bad for the people who take it badly, and it's good for the people who it makes more resilient.
Sure, I agree with you on that. But we can't, if we're making prescriptions for society, if we're saying, hey, the thing I don't like about hookup culture is rejection, right? We can't just be like, well, it's bad for these people, it's bad, because then you don't have a problem with rejection. You just have a problem with rejection.
I don't have my problem is not with rejection. My problem is with the effect that the rejection has on society.
On certain people in society.
Yes.
Because you don't have a problem with the 75% in this hypothetical who have a positive effect. You don't have a problem with people like me who get rejected and it helps build them up, right? You only have a problem with a certain percentage of people who get rejected on which there's a negative effect.
I think that the effect on those people causes a negative effect for society.
Okay. Where do you stand on starting a business? Do you think starting a business is a good idea, bad idea, neutral idea?
I think that if you have a good, basis for a business, it can be a good idea.
Right. But you do know that most businesses fail within their first year, right?
Sure.
So that's a whole bunch of people who have a negative effect from starting a business. But you would never say, I think starting a business is a negative.
Yeah, I would say that starting a business can be a negative for sure.
It can be, but is it? Because I agree with you. Rejection
depends on the circumstances.
Right. Depends on the I agree with you. Rejection can be a negative, right? In certain situations, sure. I would say for guys who are kind of quitters and lack resilience, right? Guys who are willing to give up. Yes, it will be bad for those guys. But I'm assuming you would not be an advocate of guys being quitters. I'm assuming that you would be an advocate for guys persevering and becoming more resilient and pushing past, the discomfort to overcome the obstacle. I'm assuming that's your position.
Yes, that is my position, but that is not what's happening.
Right. There's a certain percentage of guys who give up, right? They don't have any resilience. They don't have any discipline. So what do you think is the solution for those guys? Do you think the solution is for those guys to become more resilient and push through the pain? Or do you think it is for us to cuddle them as a society and say, oh, rejection is so bad, blah, blah, blah?
I think that ideally, yes, they should become more resilient, but I don't think that the conditions in our society that led to that are positive.
There's no great time to end the debate, but we're over an hour at this point, and I've got callers waiting on the back lines, and I want to move into that.
Wait, Andrew, I feel really bad because I didn't give Kyle time. Can we give him time to ask me questions?
That's on him. So, how you feel about the debate or how you feel about it, that's on you guys. I'm just going off the time limitations here. So, how the debate ends up playing out is based on how you guys have the interaction. If he chose to mostly answer questions throughout the debate, that's his problem, not your problem. So
yeah, I kind of got wrapped up in that, but
I just want to give. I mean, we don't have to do it right now. We can do it after, but I do want to give Kyle, in the interest of fairness, a chance to ask me any questions he has. So we can do that after or whenever. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be time as the callers interact to do that, but we're going to wrap up this portion of the debate by getting into closing statements. And then, of course, moderator can interact, all that kind of stuff. So for now, Alex, no, I'm not. No, relax. For now, though, I'm going to let you close first. I'm going to give Kyle the last word on this, and then we're going to move into callers and super chats and all that good stuff. So go ahead, Alex. You have 7 minutes.
Yeah. So first of all, I will say I appreciate you doing the debate, Kyle. I know you said it was your first debate, and the first time you do a debate, it's kind of hard, right? You don't really know what you're doing. So it's a good thing, and I appreciate you. You seem like a genuine person. That being said, I don't think you have really thought about these things that much. I don't think you have succinct positions on this. A lot of the stuff you say you're against It doesn't seem like you're really against, or there's a lot of qualifiers there. And it seems like there's a little bit of like a dog whistle going on where it's like, yeah, fuck modern liberal sexuality. Okay, well, what do you not like about it? I don't like dating apps. Well, actually, I don't like, that some people are not having success on dating apps, or sorry, that some people are hooking up on dating apps, right? But the people who are getting into relationships, that's okay. Yeah, I don't like hookup culture. Well, what do you not like about hookup culture? I don't like rejection. Well, what do you not like about rejection? Well, I don't like it that there's some people who are getting rejected, even though at the same time, I still think they should push through that. So I think that, yeah. So I think that's basically my whole thing is I think that you have to think about these positions a little bit more. I think like all things, it requires nuance. It's not as simple as like modern liberal sexuality is bad or good. There's elements that are good and there's elements that are bad. With any kind of technological innovation, there's downsides and there's upsides. And we have to really look at the details and nuance if we want to figure out what is the net effect. And my answer is, what do I think is the net effect of modern sexuality? I think it's neutral. I think it works for some people, doesn't work for other people. I think that for certain situations, like meaning when you're like in your 30s, it might not work. But when you're in your like early 20s and you're a horny teenager, it might work. So I think we really, instead of making like broad sweeping statements like, oh, modern sexuality is bad, we should return to traditional values, we really have to like explain what exactly we're talking about and what exactly our prescription should be. Because it's nice to just say, like, it sounds good. Like, yeah, it's like, fuck wokeism, fuck modern sexuality, right? It sounds good, right? But it's not really anything practical or tangible that someone can grab onto. So I think that giving more specific prescriptions and having more thought out thoughts is essential when we're engaging in these complex topics. So yeah, I'll just kick it off to Kyle.
Kyle, go ahead. You have the last word.
So yeah, we definitely got, bogged down in the dating thing. And honestly, the hookup culture thing too. We just got like tied down a lot in, I'm not honestly not even sure what to say we got tied down in, but a lot of the stuff that I wanted to talk about would have been more the effects of modern dating on the world, or I'm sorry, modern liberal sexuality on the world. And a lot of that has to do with things like porn, the fact that 98% of men have watched porn in the last 6 months, 80 in the last week, the types of effects that has on your brain, things like making you less aware of what you're actually doing, which makes it harder to stop. It makes you more likely to be in denial about your behavior. It increases your likelihood to pursue addictive behaviors, not just porn. It decreases motivation. Dopamine is the motivation chemical in your brain. And you have no motivation to go out and, do other things like create a business, because you've dumped all your dopamine. There's just tons of negative effects. There's like a 1,000% increase in erectile dysfunction in young men over the last 15 years. These are the kinds of things that I've got a real problem with. And with those porn statistics, we're talking about like 14.4% of boys in 2008 under the age of 13 had seen pornography. In 2011, that had jumped up to 48.7. In 2017, that had jumped up to 69% of children under 13 watching pornography when their brains are at their highest plasticity. When the stuff that you are doing to your brain matters most, we're consuming this kind of content. Almost 25% of all adult content is viewed by children under 10 years old. And when I talk about the negative aspects of sexual culture, those are the kinds of things that I'm talking about. What kind of effect does that have on children? Those are the kinds of things that I would have liked to get into. Also, things like, hookup culture feeding into things like abortion, things like that. Also, I would have considered things like homosexuality and transsexuality being, within the realm of things that we could have talked about in this debate, and their negative effects on, all kinds of things like, just relations between people. And, when you add all of this stuff up together, homosexuality, transsexuality, birth control, feminism, and just its numerous negative effects on society. When you add all of those things together, then you start, getting into the realm of population decline and the effect that those things have on that. And, it's just, if we keep going down this road, we're not going to a good place. So those are the things that I would have liked to have gotten into, but we didn't really have time for it.
It's all right.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever want to get into it,
it's fun. It is what it is. Yeah, I would be happy to talk to you again.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, I appreciate it very much, guys. So we do things a little bit differently on the Crucible. Once the closing statements are done, we do consider the debate portion to be over, move into the other portions of the show. We're moving into the call-in portion, just so that everybody out there understands. At this point, with the debate closed, the moderator can participate. I did have a couple of written questions down, but I'm going to save them. I'm kind of hoping that they come up with the callers. I don't know. I guess we'll kind of find out as we go. Petrogard, the reason that even though you came in late that I pulled you up first is because you're a longtime donor to the Crucible, and so the rest of the fuckers can wait, right? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm joking. Petrogard, go ahead with your question whenever you're ready.
Sure. So I got a question for Alex.
Go ahead.
What metric or study would you cite to demonstrate that modern dating culture has produced more stable, happier relationships?
Well, that's not the claim I'm making. I'm neutral about it. So I don't know. I'm coming from a place of agnosticism. Kyle's the one that's saying that it's a negative. So the burden of proof is on him. So I don't know if it has actually resulted in that or not.
Wouldn't the fact that as we wander further and further away from what just objectively makes stable traditional relationships, when just the apparent lack of that being around, high divorce rate, massive dissatisfaction, men exiting?
Yeah, I think there's definitely issues that go on with modern culture in general. I don't necessarily know if that ties directly into promiscuity. Sure, there's a lot of issues. I mean, I agreed with Kyle on the whole gender roles thing. I do think that when people are not sticking more or less to the gender roles, that causes issue in the relationship. I wonder, though, how much of the issue is actually nothing to do with modern sexuality and more things to do with like technology and access. Like 30, 40 years ago, your wife was not being DM'd by hundreds of guys on Instagram, right? So I don't really have a good answer on like what percentage played what role. But yeah, there's definitely issues that happen today. I'm not denying that. I just don't know really what they're caused by. And I think there's things like technology that, could definitely play a big role.
Well, I think technology would just accelerate what was already there. I mean, when you look back at the 60s and the 70s and the sexual revolution and people no longer waiting for marriage, I mean, I think once that became normalized, dating apps are just a wildfire for that.
Well, I mean, I think you would agree that the kind of behavior you don't like is much more predominant now than it was like 20 years ago, before Instagram, before dating apps, right?
Well, it's not about me liking it or not. It's about how objectively it seems to be leading to worse outcomes for everyone, especially kids.
So what is the objective? Like what's the proof for that?
Go back to waiting for marriage, staying with the person.
I understand what the
through thick or
prescription is.
thin.
I'm asking, what is the proof that it has led to worse outcomes?
Higher divorce rate, more single parents, people who have way more kids today outside of marriage entirely. Not just that they get divorced, but just they were never married and they have kids outside of marriage, and there's no obligation to stick around there. I mean, even in your worldview, that would lead to way worse outcomes for men. I mean, now you got to pay alimony for the next 18 years. Huge portion of your resources is devoted to what was just a semi-fun one-night stand, or hell, maybe it was even really fun. Even in your own worldview, you'd have to admit it's terrible for everyone by every metric, I would imagine.
Well, I think divorce is not always a bad thing. Like my parents got divorced and they're both a lot happier now. But yeah, sure.
Well, even without divorce, just people who were never married having kids outside of wedlock, it's horrible for the kids.
Yeah, I don't think that's good, for sure. But
single
Well,
motherhood
it doesn't
is
sound
like
the
very
biggest
it
contributor.
seems
for
like you could just like wear a
homelessness.
condom, and it seems like you could just wear a condom and avoid this issue.
Well, that solves that problem, but you have the whole host of other problems with,
Like
people
what?
who are unable to pair bond, people who,
Yeah, but
don't save themselves for
on the
marriage.
condom front though, it's so weird to me that you say that, Alex, because with the increase in the amount of times that you use a condom, with the increase of the amount of sexual partners you have, that comes with an increase of the amount of times the condom can fail, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
mean, like
Condoms-
if we're just looking at it from a logical standpoint, like every time you fuck with a condom, you end up with a greater chance that the condom's going to break than if you weren't having sex without the condom, right?
Yeah, condoms are pretty effective. I mean, I think if you want to add a double measure, what you would do is you would either have the girl be on birth control, and if you have a situation where the girl's on birth control and you're using a condom, you're going to be good.
So I guess it
or
doesn't seem like the condoms just solve the problem then, does
they solve 99% of the problem.
it?
But for
Well,
everything,
birth control
there's
birth
no
control is a
problem.
big ask for a woman.
there's-
That
there's
messes
no-
with hormones.
There's no technological innovation that solves the problem 100%. 99% is pretty good.
No, there is a technological
Yeah,
innovation that solves the
there is.
problem 100%. Alex, can you think of what that could be? What could that be, Alex, that would
Yeah,
solve the problem?
chastity is
100
not a technological innovation.
Wait a second. That would solve the problem 100%.
How is that a
kidding.
technological innovation?
If you're going to call birth control technology, then you would call chastity technology as well. If it's
No,
a
I wouldn't.
worldview prism, it's a technology. How is
No,
it not?
They're very different. Birth control is
What?
something that's
Okay, wait a
invented
second.
by
Wait a
scientists.
second.
Is it
Chastity-
chastity belt technology?
Yeah.
Chastity,
Is it like an actual chastity belt?
chastity belt is technology. But chastity as a concept is something that's been around forever. It's not technology. That's just like a belief.
Any idea you put
Wait a
into
second. Wait a second.
Do you really think chastity
Beliefs,
is a
beliefs.
technology?
You think beliefs can't be technologies? Is that what you just said?
I think that beliefs are not technology, but you can make.
Well, what is a technology then?
What is a technology?
Yeah, what is technology? Is language a technology?
Something that is.
Language,
No,
yeah.
I don't think language is technology. The way
Language isn't a technology.
I think that technology is something that's invented, something that's created.
Like language?
language is
Like
invented?
language.
Like language, Alex?
Okay,
And-
I typically think of it with physical things, but sure, I will concede that language can be a technology, right?
Well,
If we define what
language
technology
isn't
very loosely.
physical.
But
How do you
well,
hear
yeah,
it?
chastity-
How do you hear it if it's not physical, Alex?
am I going to be able to like respond, or is it just going to be like a 3-on-1 where?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
I'm not talking much.
Okay, so anyway, so chastity is not something that came around recently. Chastity has been around forever. It's not a modern thing. It's not a semi-modern thing. Chastity, by no meaning, would be a technology. Chastity is just a belief that people have had for a very long time.
You can't say that just because the technology is old, it's any less of a technology. Who cares if you plow up the field with a hand share rather than a tractor? It's still technology, isn't it?
Okay,
Is
then I
a hoe a technology? Like
Yes,
literally?
because
Yeah.
that was invented. At a certain
Like
point.
language, like
What-
culture.
Andrew,
Like
when was chastity invented?
who the fuck knows? Who knows? Who
Who
cares?
was
Yeah.
it? Who was it?
Who cares? Who cares?
Who was it
cares?
invented by?
Who cares? It's beside the point
Well,
of
it's
whether it's
actually
a
extremely
technology or
important.
not.
Well, it's extremely important because for birth control, I can tell you when it was invented and by who. Right? That's the difference.
That's
With-
because it's recent. What's your point?
Okay, we can take something
What
really
does that
old.
have to do with anything?
Yeah, it has nothing to do with
Something
price
really,
in
we can
China.
take something really old, something that's 2,000 years old. Typically, an invention, we can see, okay, it was invented by this person or these series of people. It was invented around this time period. With chastity,
Oh, okay.
you
Well,
don't know
hey,
when it
Alex, when was math invented?
When was math invented?
Yeah, when was it invented?
I'm not too sure about that.
Oh,
I'm assuming-
you're not too sure. What do you mean you're not too sure? I could point to when the calculus was. I mean, come on, man.
Do you
Talk
want
about
something
bad
else?
faith.
If you want to argue
Something
that
else.
chastity, dude, this is such a weird pedantic argument. If you want to argue that chastity is a technology, then so be it. But I think that's a
Well,
really
no. What makes it a technology? That's what I'm arguing. What makes it a technology, not whether or not just not having sex is a technology. That would be ridiculous. But it's rather a course of behavior that's learned, right? That's chastity. That would be what would make it a technology.
Okay,
It'd
so
be implemented
just,
technologically. Yes.
let's just go.
So
off
if you were to
standard
say,
definition.
I have a technology that prevents pregnancy, I would say I have a technology that prevents it too.
The application of so here's the technical definition of technology: the application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes, especially in industry.
That's
So
only one definition.
wait.
Go ahead and
Wait,
use the
check this
rest of
out.
the definitions.
what definition are you
Check
going
this
on?
out,
Use
Alex.
the rest of the definitions. That's just an A, and then you have a definienum or a definition. I'm sorry. Use a definition as well, which is what supports technology. Just reading off the first A portion of whatever your technology.
What is the definition you're going off then?
Right now, I'm not going off of a specific dictionary definition. I don't need to. Technology.
Yeah.
It'd be something which I would consider to be human invention for the purpose of X thing.
Well, and read that definition one more time. I'll use that definition for you. It's actually 100% applicable.
Two different threads. Okay. The application of scientific knowledge for practical purposes, especially in industry.
Well, hang on. Before there was scientific knowledge, there was clearly technology, right, Alex? So you don't even believe that definition.
No, it says scientific knowledge. For
okay, so before there was scientific knowledge, there was technology, right, Alex? You agree that must be true, so you can't really agree with that definition, right?
No, science can be defined very loosely, like anything. Like
I see.
That makes it
okay.
That actually makes it easier. So
starting a fire is a definition. Like a wheel is technology. Starting a fire is technology.
Yeah. Were they implementing the scientific method? No, they weren't. They were.
You don't have to implement.
No, that's right. So what makes it scientific then, Alex?
You want to just like squabble about definitions?
You brought up. You asked me to
define waiting an hour and a half for.
Don't ask me to define something and then say
definition.
Alex, don't ask me to define it and then say you want to squabble about definitions.
You haven't been able
to squabbling about. I already defined it. Give me my definition back that I already gave you.
I don't know what your definition is. You've been like,
even though I already gave it to you, you don't even remember it, even though it was 5 seconds ago.
Sorry, I forgot, Andrew.
It was 5 seconds ago, and you already forgot it.
Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot. Will you accept my
goldfish technology?
I need Jesus in my life. That will help me understand.
All right. Back to the caller.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, so I'll even use your loosey-goosey definition of scientific.
When you see my loosey-goosey definition, you mean the first thing that pops up on Google.
So scientifically, I can look around and say there's a lot of motherfuckers getting STDs and having kids out of wedlock and their life looks really rough. I bet I can perform an experiment where I don't do that, and I can guarantee that I don't have STDs and I don't have kids out of wedlock. And then when I meet an awesome chick, then I can just start a family with her and have a much higher percentage chance of being happier. And anecdotally, it has worked out.
So are you in a relationship right now? Or are you a virgin? What's your situation?
I'm married. We have a kid on the way.
Were you a virgin before you met your wife?
Yeah.
You are, really?
Yeah. I met her at 33.
Okay. So you didn't have sex for the first 33 years of your life?
Correct.
I love that Alex's mind is just completely fucking blown by that.
No, it's not blown. I've heard people who wait for a while. I think it's a silly decision, but everyone can do whatever they want,
I do not regret it at all. My wife does not regret it either. So it works out. It works out, kids.
I'm happy it worked out for you, man. I don't know what else to say.
All right, Petrogard, I got to let you wrap up here before I move on to the next caller. Do you have anything you wanted to end with?
No, I'll just let it sit where it's at.
All right, appreciate it very much. Near Simplicity, you've been waiting patiently in the background. Go ahead with your question when you're ready.
Okay, hi. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
All right, awesome. I guess I have one question for Kyle and then kind of a couple for Alex. So, Kyle, I was gonna ask, how are you planning to sort of justify this normatively, like without the use of Christianity or any sort of underlying principle? Because if you said at the I don't want to misquote you, but like sort of verbatim at the beginning, you said you don't need to have any sort of religious framework to understand the value of a traditional lifestyle, and I agree with that. But there's also no imperative to if you don't see the value in it, because that's normative. So how are you planning to justify that to Alex, who doesn't, or at least
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just like last time after the Farha debate, like Alex just like didn't understand what justification was. No offense, Alex. Like with Andrew.
Yeah. So I guess in the debate, what I was planning to do is like with something specific, like let's say porn. I mentioned in my closing statement that there's been something close to a 1,000% increase in erectile dysfunction among young men in the last 15 years, which correlates basically with, the advent of porn just being all over the fucking place. I think that it is self-evident that being able to get boners when you're 21 is better than not being able to get boners when you're 21. That's basically like the entirety of the argument.
Yeah, by the way, I don't actually disagree with anything you said. I don't think that overconsumption of porn is good by any stretch. And I think that men should, generally speaking, steer clear of porn. So yeah, we don't have any disagreement when it comes to that.
Okay. All right. But yeah, I would kind of disagree with that, but I don't want to get into a thing. I would just say that nothing is self-evident, because then you can get into like weird brute facts territory and mess with a lot of stuff. And then
you don't think anything is self-evident?
I don't know. It'd be hard.
Like you're talking right now. Is that self-evident?
I suppose I grant you that.
Okay. You're on this call right now. Is that self-evident?
Yeah. Okay. Unless I'm like a hard solipsist, then yes, there are things that.
Yeah. So there's got to be some things that are self-evident, right? Like Alex is a Degen. That's self-evident, right? Anyway,
Andrew believes in a 2,000-year-old fairy tale. That's also self-evident.
Anyway, go ahead.
So,
I'm sorry.
Not being self-evident is one thing, but you're not comfortable saying that most of the time it's better if 21-year-olds can get boners as opposed to not being able to when they have like a woman with them.
But Alex could just deny and say, I don't care, it doesn't affect me, and like keep pushing.
I mean, I think that it does. I think that it affects all of us.
I think it affects society, but that's what I was going to ask Alex.
Exactly.
Just now. I was gonna say, Alex, like you agree we need like people and like families and like people rearing children to continue society, like, right?
Yeah, like from a macro perspective, sure. I just don't know how to go about that from a micro perspective. Like, do we force people to have kids? Do we give them tax penalties if they don't have kids? Like, I do agree on a macro perspective. We are facing a population collapse, and so are a lot of countries. But how do we fix that from a micro perspective?
I think what Kyle said about modern liberal sexuality is probably a part of it, unless you, I guess, could deny that sexuality is not a part of a relationship, like a key element to it. But I would say it is, and that's like with the basic normie stat that everybody knows, that with 0 to 1 partners, people tend to not get divorced, as opposed to having like a laundry list.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to a lack of having children, historically, there's been several things that have been tied into it. Number one is education. It seems that like the more educated someone is, the less likely they're to have kids. Number two is money, wealth. So the more money people have, the less likely they're to have kids. And three, I will give Andrew this one, is religion. It seems like the less religious people are, the less likely they are to have kids, which is why you look at like Israel, which is
why we're just going to breed you out, bro. We're just going to breed out the progressive scum wherever they lie. We'll just breed you all out. That's how it's going to work.
It seems like a good strategy. But yeah, so I think it's multiple things. I'm not convinced that hookup culture is causing the population collapse. I think it much more has to do with education, income, and moving away from religion.
I mean, I think it has to play it.
Well, it's materialism, right, Alex? There's no net gain in having children. There's no gain. So once upon a time, there used to be a gain, right? You used to have farm hands. You used to have people who could help you out with different things. You used to have, kind of your family's trade, all of this type of thing. And children were very useful, but now there's no gain. And since we live in a materialist society, that's when people map out their family dynamic, they realize that children are just a kind of a net draw, right? Isn't that really what's going on?
I think you're right, but I would say it's probably as materialistic to have a kid just so he can help you on your farm. Would you not agree with that?
No, I don't think so. I think that when you're talking about incentives, you would mix up both of the things together. So I think that there may be a material element to it, but I also think that there is a paternal and maternal element to it as well. Women want to have kids. Like, you're not going to disagree with me on that. Women have a biological drive to have children, and so do men. Otherwise, we wouldn't have sex. We just look at it in a different way, right?
Yeah, some do, some don't. I guess my question would be like, what would be your prescription? Like, how do we solve this problem?
We have to try to lean people back away from materialism. And the only way that we can do that is with religion, which offers something outside of materialism. You can't offer anybody anything outside of materialism. It's impossible for you to do that.
Andrew, how do we do that? Like, do we make it illegal for you to be agnostic? Like, do we give
You don't have to make anything illegal. That's a terrible prescription.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. How do we actually push
Well, I
people
just told you, if you want to push people towards religion, actually the progressives are doing it the best that anybody possibly can by saying like men can be women and all kinds of fucking crazy shit. People find solace in the church when things start going awry in society.
So do we want things to go really awry in society?
I would
Already
prefer,
there.
I would prefer that they didn't, but the thing is whatever my preference is not a descriptor for what is reality and what is reality.
That's what I'm asking you. I make you personally.
I'm trying to answer you. So I'm giving you a descriptor and then I'm giving you a prescription on top of the descriptor. The descriptor is that society's going off the fucking, it's going off the rails.
Okay.
The prescription for it is religion. If you're asking for a prescription of how to implement it, you're going to implement it the same way we've been implementing it, by taking on degens wherever they are with a better message, with better debates, with better dialogue, with better, the same way religion has always traditionally been set in all four corners of the world, Alex.
Andrew, that doesn't seem to be working because people in America every year become less and less religious. So
who cares? Well, listen, they do right now. That's true. However, you'll find in other places which are developing that that's not the case. And not only that, try to remember this, that once upon a time, Christianity didn't exist. And it did end up going to all four corners of the world, even the ones that were the most technologically advanced. They did embrace its messaging, even though it was Eastern based. Just understand that as things go wrong, you don't have answers that can give people anything outside of the material. That's why you just go, here, take this fucking pill, take this psych pill. It'll make you feel better. Take this pill for your depression. Take this for your depression. Take your, other than materialism, you have nothing to offer anybody. That's where religion comes in.
That was a very nice ramble, but you didn't answer my question. I make you dictator of the United States. How are you going to make people more religious? You can't.
I would just push it as a norm, as something that's normative. I wouldn't make a prescription for law. You don't need to.
How do you push it as something that's normative?
Well, first of all, you don't have the LGBTQ flag all over the White House. Maybe just religious symbols are okay in the public square again. That's all right. Okay, so maybe we shame people a bit for burning the cross in the public square. Maybe we do things like this. We just push what's the normative way that people look at these things. You don't have to make laws, draconian, fascistic laws in order to enforce. You can just use shame. Good old-fashioned shame, Alex.
Well, the two specifics you gave me is, number one, we removed the gay flag from the White House.
No, I gave you multiple specifics, including exactly how to do it.
I'm about to give you the second one if you just wait 2 seconds. The second one that you gave me is that we allow religious symbols in the town square, and also we shame anyone.
No, that's only two. That's only 2 of 6 specifics I gave you. What are the other specifics I gave you? Did I give you the specific of shame?
You gave me like 2 or 3.
Give you a specific of shame?
You said
what's the word shame mean? Is that very specific, Alex? I think it is.
You said that if we burn, if someone burns the flag, then we shame them for that.
Mm-hmm. The Bible or religious symbols,
sure.
Or what we're seeing right now with boycotts. What we're seeing right now with religious boycotts with Target and places like that, they seem to be very effective when the Christian right decides, oh, wait, we have the most powerful institution on planet Earth, the church. We can also boycott these motherfuckers.
All right, sure. So that's 3. So what are the other 3?
Well, I told you, shame. Shame is another one. Another way that
we just mentioned.
Another way is to push normative claims, right? Or what's normative in society. And you can do this by just not pushing what's external to norm. That's it. The government just doesn't need to push what's external to what's normal, which it would be man, woman, marriage, child. That's normal.
So would the government need to make a law that's saying that, like,
you don't have to make a law to push that type of thing? It's not necessary.
So how are they going to push it?
Because they're on a fucking pulpit like Donald Trump in front of 25 million people, and they say things like, "We're trying to, ask our compatriots to, have the best life that they possibly can with their wives and their children." You do things like that. It's called inserting the language into the environment, into the propaganda, right?
Okay, so the public figures like presidents and senators are going to basically speak on the value of becoming religious and being family oriented, right?
Sure. That's one way of many. Of many things which you would insert. Well, I already gave you. How many more do you want?
You didn't give me 6. You gave me like 4.
Well, how many more do you want?
I just want you to give me the other two.
4 is better than you. How are you going to fix people's depression with materialism degeneracy? Give me one. Give me one.
You don't want to
answer
you don't want to answer the question, then
I answered
before we
with-
legalize.
hang on, stop. I gave you 4.
You said
Four
you gave me
different
6.
criteria. 4. I'm asking you for 1. Give me 1 criteria Alex has for how degeneracy is going to fix the depression of people in the United States, which is on a huge uptick.
Well,
Tell me,
that's not
give me one.
that's not the argument I'm making.
Yeah, I don't care what the argument is you're making. Give me 1. Give me 1. How you're going to fix that. 1 criteria.
How can I give you 1 if I don't actually think that's the solution?
Right, because you can't, because you just offer materialist bullshit to people. You can't give them anything.
I don't know why you get so triggered every time someone asks
Well,
you.
it's not triggered. It's just I see
Like,
what
you
you're
literally,
doing.
Like, you said 6, and then you gave me like 3 or 4, and I'm just like, hey, what are the
No,
other 2?
Alex,
Well,
I
give
gave
me
you
1.
I gave you multiple criteria. It's just that you said there's only 2 specifics you gave. You forgot shame. You forgot what I said when it would come to politicians using a bully pulpit. So what you do is you offer me back bifurcations, and it's like, don't do that. It's just stupid. Just engage with what I'm saying.
I am engaging with what you're saying. Just so far, the things you mentioned, I don't actually think are going to play a big role in actually pushing people to a religion. I agree with you, Andrew, that if people were more religious, that would cause people to have more kids, right?
Yeah.
I'm just confused on how you would make people more religious. You gave me some things.
Alex,
I don't think any of the let me finish, and then you could ask me a question. I don't think any of the things that you mentioned will have a substantial role on pushing people towards religion. I think that if you want
to push, what do you think had a substantial role in pushing people away from religion? Was it laws, Alex?
What do I think?
Was it laws? Did the government say you can't be religious anymore? That's what pushed people away?
Education, internet.
So you didn't need laws in order to push people away from it. You just need laws, and somehow in Alex's brain to push people towards it, which is fucking insane to me.
Well, because the trend right now is for people to become less religious. So yeah, if you want to buck this trend, which is like people becoming less and less religious, then you do have to do something. Like,
you don't have to implement a law, which wasn't required to make them less religious, and it wasn't required to make them more religious. There was no law saying you had to be a Christian in the United States. Show me that law.
No one's saying there was that law. So you think that just by talking
this
about
is a cultural fight that's
so
based on dialectics and dialogue.
You think that just about talking about the benefits of Christianity, you're going to make people more religious? You're going to buck this trend?
I think that one person doing it is, of course, not enough. But I think tens of thousands of people doing it, and tens of thousands of people boycotting, and hundreds of thousands of people doing things like this, yeah, I think that can shift culture. It's done it before. A single man can shift the entire cultural dynamic of a society. Would you like examples? I mean, how many examples do you want?
How are you gonna organize with these tens of thousands of people? I guess is my question.
They're already being organized external of me. Why do you think Target just got a boycott? Target just got a boycott.
Then
and capitulated.
Going downhill, right? So if what you're saying is true, the trend would be going like this, but it just keeps going down like this.
Well, did you think that Rome was going to get built overnight, or did you think that it was going to take a little bit of work?
So how much more work do you think it's going to take? For people
probably 100 years. It'll take us 100 years to get back our cultural dynamic and institutions.
So you think in 100 years we will be more religious as a country instead of less religious?
Necessarily, yeah. Anytime you see things start to become dire or dark, people move towards the church for solace. This is a historic truth, Alex.
Okay, all I see.
Alex, I have a question for you. I have a question.
Less religious, so.
Up until, I don't know when exactly it was, 10, 15 years ago, homosexual marriage, gay marriage was not legal. And it became legal because the culture changed around it. How did they do that?
I think that people just change their beliefs based on, I guess, higher education and realizing that like
it wasn't just higher
contagious.
It wasn't just higher education. It's media. It's a combination of propaganda. It's a combination of even things as simple as what you do, normalizing what you do to even just a couple of hundred people. That it's okay to have like
homosexuality.
I'm not saying homosexuality is a specific item. I'm saying that the way that culture is shifted is by thousands of people like you who have even small audiences moving the direction that culture goes. For instance, communism, when I was growing up and you were growing up, Alex, didn't even fucking exist. Nobody was talking about communism. You come here on YouTube, though, and you go on Twitch, it's filled to the fucking brim with Marxists all over the place. 10 years ago, they would have been run out of fucking town. When you were a kid, you never consumed any Marxist media, ever. It never fucking happened.
I don't consume Marxist media now.
Well, I mean, but when you were a kid, it wasn't even there to consume, is my point. This is how culture shifts. It shifts through dialectics and dialogue.
I understand the culture can shift. I guess just to quickly respond to what you were saying. So what I'm doing is I'm helping thousands of men improve their sex and dating life. I've helped countless guys who are on the brink of suicide or guys who are just depressed get into a happy relationship or just, be able to have sex here and there when they want to. I think that's a much better accomplishment than just like virtue signaling about the importance of getting back to religion without actually offering any specific.
Oh, well, it's all a virtue. It's all a virtue signal. Just like all the Marxists are virtue signaling, all the degenerates are virtue signaling, yet they were able to have a significant enough impact on culture to begin to move people away from religion. If you think that can't happen the opposite way, then you're historically illiterate.
But then why does it keep going downhill?
Well, it's only it doesn't keep going downhill. This is a new trend. New trend, Alex. It's like new trend of it really starting to take a nosedive. Yeah, but historically, that's a new trend. So what I'm saying to you is that just like you're trying to influence culture, so are thousands of other people on the right-hand side who have religious fundamentalism as part of their belief structure. They're also influencing culture. You think that we can't do it? We have to make laws. We have to take you out at gunpoint. That's insane. Nobody's advocating that. We can beat you with dialectics because we're smarter and we have a better message.
I'm sure you are. Yeah, I think that like with the way the trend is, anything short of like legal change, or there's some massive catastrophe that like pushes people to like question all their beliefs, like a fucking meteor drops or like a nuclear war. I don't think that the trend is going to reverse. I think the trend is on a pretty clear trajectory of going down and down and down. So you would have to do something drastic. Just talking about it.
Hang on, I can prove to you that you're wrong in a way that you can't refute. Okay. You're thinking yourselves out of existence. Did you not say that the religious are the ones who are most likely to breed? So what happens in 100 years when you're not breeding and all the ultra religious are, Alex? What do you think happens, considering most people become religious from their parents? What do you think the dynamics look like when you guys thought yourself out of existence?
Yeah, I don't foresee that happening. I think what you will see is that a lot of
wait, that's the trend right now, right?
Am I going to be able to answer a question?
Well, isn't that the trend right now? That's the trend you just quoted.
Yeah, on average, religious people have more kids than
a lot more. Significant deviation.
Right, but if that played a major role in the trend, then you would see that this generation is more religious than the previous generation because we're already 2 or 3 generations in. We're talking about 100 years. So I think what's happening is that, like someone might have religious parents and then they rebel and they become non-religious. I think that, maybe parents are initially religious, but then they abandon their faith later on in life. I mean, I think there's many things that are happening. But yeah, I would think that if that was the case, then at this point, we're 100 years into it.
Hang on.
There would be some kind of counteractive.
Bro, that doesn't make any sense because you would agree that most people adopt their religion from their parents, right?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? That's not just intuitive to you? Where do you think they get it from? They get it from the law?
If you say that's the case, I'll take your word for it. I don't know.
Yeah, they get it from their parents. Most people do. And most people continue with their religious practices. Most of them do throughout their lives. They may deviate, and you're right. There are some who fall off. There are some who walk away. There are some who get absorbed by different cultures. That all happens. But for the most part, people who have religious parents stay religious most of their lives. So it's very simple for me. It's a numbers game, Alex.
So why is it for the last 100 years it's only gone down and down? We're talking 3 generations at this point.
This is due to multiple factors, one of which being mass migration, another one being a huge amount of Marxist rhetoric against Christianity, which has been paramount to the shift in the paradigm against Christianity. It never was okay. Guys like you, I'm going to tell you the truth, right? You're not going to want to hear this, but it's true. 50 years ago, Christians would have drug you out your house and beat the holy shit out of you and said, "What are you doing, you fucking degenerate scumbag? Get out of our neighborhood." That's what they would have done.
First of all, that would have never happened.
That's the difference in the shift. No, it would have happened. It did happen. They ran people out all the time. They had.
Do you think people who were atheists 50 years ago would get the shit beat out of them? Really? That's your claim?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that Christianity and Christians had a much more militant power dynamic in the United States. And if people,
So should we go back to that?
well, I think that the culture will necessarily shift to that.
Well, you said that I think the reason you gave is an influx in Marxist culture, which, by the way, I'm not convinced of that reason. But assuming that's true, how do you know there's not going to be more?
What do you
Marxist-
mean? You're not convinced of that? Where do you think
Hang
all the
on.
feminists? Where do you think all the
Yeah.
feminists came from, bro?
How do you know that 30, 40, 50, 100 years from now, there's not going to be even more Marxist culture?
Well, because we have the numbers, and you guys are thinking yourself out of existence and
Well,
aborting
that
all your
hasn't
children, and we're all breeding. That's how I know, Alex.
That hasn't worked for the last 100 years.
Because we haven't been outpacing the breeding like we are now. We've never been on the decline where now we're underneath replacement rates. You guys are literally thinking yourselves out of existence. Literally.
I'm sure in 100 years it'll be different, Andrew.
Yeah, well, okay, Alex, here, I'll give it to you the easiest way possible, right? I have 5 kids. How many do you have?
You know how many kids I have.
Exactly how many? 0, right?
Yeah. Is that
That's 5 times I have to replicate my ideology and 0 times you have to replicate yours, and that's why we win.
Okay. Christian. Yes, Christians are winning. Religion's on the rise. I'm sure you guys will. You guys took a little dip, but I'm sure you guys will pick it up very soon.
Well, I mean, we will, but near simplicity, this kind of deviated, which is kind of fun. But
Yeah.
Did you have anything else you wanted to end on before I end the call, sir?
Yeah, just a couple. I don't want to get too long-winded, but like for the first point with like let's say hookup culture, or even just like dating apps, like Tinder is most definitely the largest. Pew Research just published something as of February. I figure a source like that would be more willing for people to just accept. But yeah, 30% of U.S. adults say that they have ever used a dating app. Tinder has 46% compared to everything else, I believe. Let me see. How many are under 30? 79% of dating users under 30, so not even the majority have used the platform. But 79% of the dating users under 30 have used Tinder. And then 10% of everybody, not just excluding everyone else, for that small percentage of people that are able to actually bear healthy children or children at all, 10% are in partnered relationships that doesn't necessitate straight, and more are gay. Only 9% are straight, and it says 24% are LGB. And then you would say, okay, well,
I don't believe that part. I don't think 24%. I think that's going off what they identify, and a lot of people use pronouns for like solidarity. I do agree that's a cringe liberal thing, but I don't think 24% of people on Tinder are gay. I don't.
You can look at the stats, man. I'm not. You can't just say I don't agree with them. Like, okay.
Well, you have to link it to the study.
You want me to link it in chat? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Near simplicity, I have to move on. Thank you so much for the call in. I appreciate it very much. Have yourself a great day, okay?
Yeah, you too.
Wait, Andrew,
right.
can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
So I thought like a big part of Christianity was being very tolerant, right? I feel
That's
like
a mistake.
that's a mistake. It's not part of Christianity.
Why? What? Tolerant of what? Tolerant of people who want to kill us? Tolerant of people who want to burn every symbol that we care about? Tolerant of people who want to exterminate our way of life? What should we be tolerant of, Alex?
Do you think I want to kill you or burn your symbols or
I
exterminate
think that
your life?
I think that if you think that Christians,
that's why I'm on your channel, because I want to kill you.
Ultimately, what I'm saying is that I think that the progressive left absolutely wants to exterminate Christianity off the face of planet Earth.
I'm not part of the progressive left.
You are. You just don't know that you are. But the degeneracy in which you engage in is exactly a perpetuation of leftist ideology and feminism. The same feminists who none of them can even make a coherent argument to me before they fall apart in 15 seconds.
Do you think I'm a feminist? I literally debate feminists.
You perpetuate feminist ideology. Yeah. You necessarily, right? Sexual liberation, all that, just all feminist shit. It's all Marxist feminist bullshit.
All of the stuff that you put out on your channel.
That's why feminists love me, right? That's why feminists.
All of the stuff that you put out on your channel would not be. You wouldn't be able to put that out publicly without the effects of feminism on our culture. You wouldn't. The avenues for you to speak it wouldn't be there.
You think YouTube wouldn't exist without feminist culture?
No. you like hookup culture, dating, the pickup stuff. It all came from feminism. It all came from the sexual revolution.
Okay, it came from the sexual revolution. How did it come? Are you saying that anything?
The sexual revolution came from feminism.
Okay, so because it came from a sexual revolution and because that came from feminism, so technically I wouldn't be able to do what I do if it wasn't for the sexual revolution.
That's
yes,
correct.
the movement that brought you here came from feminism.
Sure. Okay. I mean, I think the movement
so a lot of the stuff that you espouse is inherently feminist, whether you realize it or not.
I think the forces that brought us here together right now having this debate is also feminism, because if feminism didn't exist, then we would not be having this discussion. But that's a very
why would we?
That's a very wait. Am I going to be able to respond at all? Or is it just going to be like interruption?
I let you respond.
You keep saying that, but you're responding quite a bit.
I know, but then like every time I start, I'm getting interrupted. So the point I'm making is that sure, originally.
Let me go get the red carpet for you, Alex. Said nobody wants you to get it. Let me roll out the red carpet. So come on, man. Anyway, go ahead. Just don't whine about it. Go ahead.
I'm not whining, dude. I'm just calling out a simple fact. Anyway, so yeah, I think that feminism was. I will agree with your argument that feminism was one of the causes that allowed me to make the kind of content that I make. If we, say that feminism caused the sexual revolution, sure. But it doesn't mean that I espouse feminist values. I disagree with feminists on a whole bunch of crap. If anything, I would probably be more closer in line with like some of the shit that Andrew believes in feminists than I would with a feminist. So,
Alex, you would be more disinclined to agree with fourth wave feminists or third wave feminists. Second wave feminism is your jam, bro.
Yeah, I think that women should have. Wait, so you said also in the last debate that you believe women should have equal rights to men.
Under what purview though?
I don't know.
Yeah, you don't remember. You don't. So you only take in small segments of what's said, and you leave the remainder behind. Under a Christian ethic, which requires hierarchy, and it requires the understanding of that ethic, which you clearly don't have. But that's what I said, is that under the Christian paradigm, I do think that, of course, women should have whatever the same rights that other Christian men would have, that they would bestow upon them like men always do. I think they should have those. I don't see that as being particularly problematic.
All right, Andrew, I make you dictator of the United States. Do you take away women's equal rights or do you keep them?
Well, when you say equal rights, do you mean like
the right to vote? The right to work.
Right. Well, no, but I wouldn't allow them to vote, but I wouldn't allow men to vote either, because I'm a dictator. Remember?
Can you answer the question like
I just did? You just said I'm the dictator of the United States. Would I allow women to vote? The answer would be no, and I wouldn't allow men to vote either because I'm a dictator.
You're the president of the United States.
Well, if I'm the president, I don't have unilateral control to make those decisions anyway.
You're just not going to engage in a hypothetical.
I'm engaging in your hypothetical. Be specific about what you're asking. Do I think that women should have the right to vote? Is that what you're actually asking me?
Yes.
Okay. The answer is no. I don't think they should, and I don't think that men should. That we should move to what's called a limited voting pool. That's what I believe.
Okay, so you're not so you don't agree with that women should have equal rights to men.
But you didn't even hear what I just said.
So we do have a massive difference, because I do think women should have the rights to vote. So yeah, I don't know.
You don't think that women should have the equal rights to men? That's ridiculous. You don't really believe that men bestow the rights on women. What's equal? What's equal there?
I agree with that part of your argument. Doesn't mean that like a fucking an adult could beat the shit out of a little kid. Doesn't mean a little kid doesn't deserve rights. So yeah, I agree with you that I agree with the argument that men bestow rights onto women, but it doesn't mean that is the what is. But in terms of the what should, yeah, I do think that we should bestow equal rights on women. Like we should treat them with decency and respect.
The decency and respect is not equal rights. Do you think, for instance, that in the workplace, your word will be taken the same as a woman's word for things like sexual harassment?
No, probably not.
So how's that equal?
Well, that should be equal too. That's another thing.
Right. So, but who's going to be the decider? The decider is going to be the men, right?
Generally, HR departments are women.
Well, no, men are going to be the ultimate decider. So what I'm saying to you, Alex, is like, look, even you don't really believe we should have equal rights because we're not equal people. Just like women will be believed about sexual assault way more than men will, because we don't really have egalitarianism or equality. What feminists want is they want you, men, to be fucking slaves to them. That's what they want.
That's not what I'm in favor of.
I know.
I'm in favor.
That's why equality is stupid.
My argument is very simple. It's that I believe legally that women should have equal rights to men. That's my whole argument.
Legally, they should have equal rights to men.
Yes.
Even though they're not equal to men, you don't believe socially or physically.
Physically, no. Socially, I don't see any evidence they're not equal to men.
Right. So then what you're asking for is really a paradox. I believe that men should give equal rights to women is what you're actually saying.
Yes.
Right. So the paradox there is that you can't ever give them equal rights because you're the one giving them.
Yeah, you can. Why can't you? Wait, if you're the one doing something, why can't you do it?
Because they're not really equal.
Are you saying in the 60s white people couldn't give equal rights to black people?
Of course they could.
So why is that different? Black people
because there's no equality differential between men. There's an equality differential between men and women. So you saying, the very nature of you saying, I'm going to give you equal rights, the necessary entailment is I can take them away.
Okay. In the 1920s, do you think that we adults should have given equal rights to children and not made them work like fucking 20 hours a week in slave conditions?
Well, that's not what happened. But even if it was, the answer would be probably not.
So you think that's bad? So kids should not have equal rights to adults? Like they should?
Of course not. Of course not.
So
they don't have equal rights to adults now. What are you talking about?
So it's okay for kids to work like in really horrible conditions that are bad for your health.
I think it's okay for kids to work. Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
The problem is when you say bad for your health, like just maybe going to work at all could be bad for your health.
Oh my God, dude. That's not what I'm arguing at all.
What are you arguing then?
I'm talking, you know what I'm talking about. You do this weird shit where you're doing like this purposeful misinterpretation.
You asked for hyper specifics from Kyle, and I'm asking for the same thing from you.
Okay. So I knew you were just waiting to get in there. So what I'm talking about is working in a factory where there's dangerous conditions, like potentially toxins or dangerous types of things, and we would protect adults from having to work in those factories through legislation. Do you think we should protect kids from that?
Sure.
Because
we do protect adults from that. We have OSHA and a whole slew of other organizations which are there to protect adults from that and kids.
But why should we protect kids from that, since we can take it away from them at any time?
Well, there's no specialty there. What I'm saying is that men, the same way that men are organizing OSHA and these different things in order to protect other men, the natural extension of that would be anybody who worked in those workplaces.
But do you think a 12-year-old kid is equal to a man physically, socially, intellectually?
Yeah, for the 300th time, no. And we wouldn't act in the way that they are.
So, right, if they're not equal, then why would we just not give them those rights?
What part of you can give it to them? But the paradox is that they're still not equal. So the whole point is that the egalitarian form of what you're asking is paradoxical on its
I'm not saying that men and women. I'm not saying that men and women are equal. Of course, they're not equal. What I'm saying is that I think they should have equal rights anyway. It seems like when it comes to
they can't.
Well, do you think that
it's a paradox because you could just take a? Don't you understand that yet? It's a paradox.
Well,
like kids, you can't give kids equal rights to men. You can't, because they have no enforcement agency other than the men.
Well, we have given a lot of equal rights to kids. Like we don't.
Yes, the benevolent men have gifted this to them.
Yes,
and they can taketh it away anytime of their choosing.
Take it away, and we can do the same thing with women.
Right.
So you just agree with me? Okay.
So no, you agreed with me that neither children nor women are equal with men. Thank you, Alex.
That's not the. Oh my God, dude! That's not the argument I was ever making. Of course, children are not equal to men. Of course, women are not equal to men.
Yes. Based, Alex. Based.
Now, that's literally been my position the whole time.
Now you're just a little bit more based, because now you understand it's even paradoxical for you to even try to give it to them.
Oh my God, dude. You're so cringe sometimes. What I'm saying is that I was never arguing against the fact that they're equal. I was saying that they should have equal rights. Do you see how you can be not equal to someone, but still give them equal rights?
No. you can't really give them equal rights if you can just take the rights. Again, it's like God comes. If a God comes down and says, Alex, you're now a god, but any time of my choosing, I can take that away. Are you equal to that God?
No one is saying that you're equal.
Answer my question.
You cannot be equal and still give someone equal rights.
Then the rights aren't really equal then.
But
They're
we
just
did
a
it with,
gift. They're just a gift, bro.
but we did it with kids.
No, we didn't do it with kids. Okay, enough. It's just circular at this point. But hang on, I'm going to move on to the next caller. New patriarch, you've been waiting patiently in the background. Whatever you're listening to, you got to turn it off because you're echoing.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
I can hear you. Yeah.
But you're echoing really bad. You got to get rid of. Oh, okay, shit. We'll move on to Richie. You've been waiting patiently. Go ahead, Richie.
Richie,
Hey, what's up, man? What's going on, Kyle? I sent in a dono chat earlier, and I think I may have misrepresented you. I meant to talk about Alex and not you. So if I did make that mistake, I'm sorry. When it comes
well, I mean, if you hurt my feelings, Richie, I'm going to be very put out and ban you from the community permanently.
Well, you know, those are equal rights.
Equal rights. Go ahead, man.
Okay. So way back when, like an hour ago, Alex, you had said you were you had a large penis and you made a large amount of money. But something you were lacking from the general 6'6" figure is that you were 6 feet tall or over.
Wait,
I'm just kind of curious.
What are we talking about?
Well, you guys were stuck in the manosphere, the PUA thing, and I'm just kind of curious. Are you like, how tall are you?
I'm 5'11".
Unfortunate. All right. So we'll scratch that one.
Why did you ask that question in such a roundabout way? Why weren't you just like, how tall are you?
Because I needed to give context.
Well, you said this like 5 minutes ago about your penis size.
I'm sorry you're so short. Don't take it out on me, okay? Equal rights, even for short people.
How tall are you, Richie?
6'5".
Okay, I'm sure you are.
Wow. Okay, so I think the genesis of all this.
He actually is. He demonstrated this, so we know it's actually true. He actually is 6'5".
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Good for him.
I'll send you a dick pic later to prove the other point.
Please don't.
Anyway, so
that was not the own you thought it was, Richie. That was not the own you thought it was that you were gonna send Alex a dick pic later, bro. I wouldn't.
I swear I'm not gay. It's just. I think
the Christian faith
for
frowns on
metrics.
that. I think the Christian faith isn't comparable to sending dick pics to other men.
Kyle, I did want to say, man, I everybody in chat was like consistently hoping you would go on offense. I sent you a couple of Discord messages and like how to turn it around, and everybody's like, I don't know. The whole chat was against you. I'm fucking with you, dude. I think that you can. I know that this is your initial debate. My initial debate was terrible, and of course, chat will say that. Well, all the rest of my debates are terrible because it's the fucking internet and it's full of trolls. But I had a lot of faith in you, man, and I know you have a great
blew it.
You fucking blew it.
It was your first debate, bro.
Yeah, and by the way, before you feel too bad, just remember that when I first started debating, I was fucking excellent at it.
What a Goomba. All right. Oh yeah. Okay. So the biggest thing that and I also wanted to say thank Petra Garde. I don't know how you say that, but he hit most of the main points. But the one that wasn't really accentuated was the sexual revolution. Alex, when do you think this whole hookup culture really existed? And this is coming from a guy that has participated. Like I grew up in this, right? So when do you think this really started?
Are you asking me when do I think it became predominant?
When did hookup culture become acceptable among people that were fucking each other?
Well, it was always acceptable amongst like kings and royalty, right? Like kings and nobles were fucking.
All right, but that kings and royalty are a very minute.
So I'm just saying.
Right.
Okay. Right. So when did it become something that like the average person would adopt? I don't know.
In the United States.
Yeah, I don't have a good answer on that. I think probably 90s.
Okay. It was before that. Do you know what Woodstock was?
Yeah.
Okay. So, would you say that the cumulative effects of the sexual revolution were a net positive or a net negative for the general welfare of the United States?
I don't know.
Okay. Do you suppose that when people are encouraged to hook up with
gonna have
each
to
other,
get to it here pretty quick, Richie. We only got X amount of time.
do you suppose that when people started hooking up with each other randomly, and it was encouraged by the media, and that was the sexual revolution, do you think that the lives of people got good or bad?
That's the same question. My answer is still the same. I don't know.
Okay, all right, then I'll pinpoint it even more. Do you think that women being married out or having children outside of wedlock is a good thing, and could you pin it to the sexual revolution that happened during the Woodstock era?
No, I don't think that having kids out of wedlock is a good thing. And I would agree that is one downside of the sexual revolution. I don't know if
Okay. Then let's expound upon that. It's true. Then let's expound upon that. Fucker. Okay, so single marriages are like a single mother household having children in her household. You are aware that that is the worst position for children to be in when it comes to sexual molestation by random pedophiles. You realize that that's the highest percentage that
I've never heard that statistic, but if you say it's true,
okay,
I'll take your word for it.
So you can take it at face value, right?
Sure.
I mean, I'm not lying to you, but like if you want to look it up, that's fine. But
yeah, I would need to see like a study and whatnot. But sure, okay.
Okay. So that's true. Okay, so you are okay with women going like divorcing their husbands with however many children they have, and it's far more likely that children are going to get sexually molested because of your willingness to accept this sexual revolution because you want to get your nut off.
You're talking about one very specific part of the sexual revolution. I'm generally anti-marriage.
No, I'm talking about the consequences of the sexual revolution.
Well, let him respond. Let him respond.
Well, there's many consequences of sexual revolution. It's not just kids are getting molested. That's not the only consequence of the sexual revolution.
No, it's a big one though.
How big is it? Like, give me some like kind of
number.
Well,
it's the highest percentage chance. Like you want to talk about not you specifically, but people talk about going to public school or going to a Catholic church, right? No, the highest percentage of child molestation happens in a single mother household.
Okay,
by far.
Okay, where does child molestation is more likely to happen, at a public school or at a Catholic school?
Public school.
Public school.
Okay.
But even worse than that. Hold on. No. Don't deflect. Don't.
I mean, like
to be asking one question.
Well, to be fair though, I think if you were to maybe mark it down per capita, maybe it would be a little bit higher in a Catholic school. That I'm not sure about. I think
it's still not. It's still not.
I think that the amount, but you have the amount of times,
a lot more people
times over with the amount of people in public school. So I'm not actually sure about that.
It's still even worse in single mother households. And do you know why, Alex?
No. Why don't you tell me?
Because predators go where the prey is. And where is the best prey? The best unsupervised prey, a single mother that works a job 9 to 5. So he has unrestricted access to those children. And that is a reality and a fact. And that is a resolution. That is the direct consequence of the sexual revolution. And you fucking those single moms, even though you're not molesting those children, is encouraging those women to continue to find another man.
Didn't you say
your argument?
Didn't you say you participate in hookup culture too?
I'm like looking for one.
I did. Yes, I don't now, but I did. Yes.
So you're just as much of a problem as me.
Well, I agree, but I also have an emotional repentance. I repent to God. I think it's a bad thing that I have done.
Do you think that makes it better for that kid that gets molested?
I don't know. Well, I know certainly that I didn't molest anyone, but
neither did I. We have that in common.
Yes, but you are contributing to that still, and you are not repenting.
So
for
did
that.
you.
No, but I repented. Do you understand? Do you understand? Like once I realized, you can go into Stefan Molyneux's.
When did you stop
I
participating?
listened to
in
Stefan
culture?
Molyneux for like 10 years, and he talked about this extensively. And once it really sunk home to me that I was contributing to the women that were raising single children. And just like hoping for like a happenstance, like a miracle relationship after they fucked a terrible person because their gynae was tingling. It really sunk home to me, and I just stopped doing it because I realized I was doing a bad thing. Are
When
you
did you
willing
stop
to
doing it?
recognize that you're doing a bad thing?
No. When did you stop doing it?
No, you're not willing to recognize that, even though you just accepted it.
No, I'm not convinced of your chain of logic. Also, couldn't you just
Fuck
hang
the
on,
question. What do you mean I'm not? What portion of
Hang
my
on,
chain of
hang on,
logic
hang
did you
on,
not
enough,
understand?
enough, hang on,
Relax.
Richie. You got to let Alex respond. Go ahead, Alex.
What if you're just not fucking single mothers, you're fucking like women who don't have any kids, and you're using birth control and condoms, and you're not getting them pregnant? Would then hookup culture be okay? Because I've never gotten a girl pregnant.
If you want to go that route, that's great. But if I would like you to grant my previous point first. If that is the case, right? So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my dad is wrong. It's not. But if you want to play that game, fine. Maybe my dad is wrong. But if it is it good for you to fuck single women and encourage single mothers and encourage them to continue fucking other single men, knowing farewell that the most statistically likely position for their children to get sexually molested is to have a relationship as a single mother with a single man?
Okay, we're relying on a lot of chains of logic. So
Can you answer the question, please?
Hey, Richie, let him.
Okay, anyway, so if it is indeed true that single mothers are more likely to have their children molested, and if it is indeed true that me fucking a single mother is going to make it more likely for her not to get into a relationship with a partner, then yeah, I would say that in this one situation, that's a net negative. Sure.
All right.
Okay,
Richie, I'm sorry. I gotta move on to the next caller. Thank you so much for the call, and though I really do appreciate it. I am seeing a bit from Alex's chat, right? Throwing Bibles at people. For some reason, I think that people in Alex's chat think that like Christians are monks who put on a hood and like walk around and go, but we don't fucking do that. Like we live in the same world you do, guys.
Are we going to bring on people from my chat, or it's just going to be a pure on like Alex Rose session?
I'm actually happy to bring on whoever you want. They could have hopped in the Discord this entire time.
I'm here to go off the break, okay?
Yeah, go ahead, Corinth, whenever you're ready.
So I guess for Kyle, would you prefer to choose a partner on more or less information about them and the way they act given certain circumstances?
More.
So like with modern dating culture and the ability to like try and talk to other people, have more partners, you'd be able to make a better decision on if the person you're with would do this thing, right?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not sure like what the issue is if we're better able to select for our partners and what we want out of a relationship then.
I'm sorry, you're not sure what the issue is.
Yeah, so like someone has the ability to keep texting someone, keep messaging someone, go on Tinder, even if like you're on your 5th, 6th, 7th date, you're going to be able to know this and you're going to be able to make a better decision based on their prior actions. So if they don't have this ability because we don't have Tinder, we don't have modern dating culture that allows them to do that, we'd be making that decision not based on what they would do given these chances, but what they had the ability to actualize.
Sure.
I'm struggling to see like why it's a better thing to choose people based on what they had the ability to actualize rather than what the choices they would make, given that we have that ability.
The choices that they would make if they had what ability?
The ability to keep talking to other people, go sleep with an ex, things like this.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how to answer that question. I think what is the benefit to continuing to, if you are looking to have a relationship that is monogamous, what is the benefit to me to continue talking to a girl who is sleeping around?
Oh, I don't think it would be a benefit to you. I think it would be better for you to cut them off when they do that. I think that it's going to be better that they have the ability to do that so you know to cut them off because they have that disposition. that they would want to do that.
I see the point.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they don't. I'm not like I'm not suggesting we like throw women in prison for being promiscuous. I just think that through cultural incentives, I would like to drive down the amount of people who are promiscuous.
What cultural incentives are going to be doing this that aren't going to be like, they're going to be changing those original dispositions on what they would do given the chance?
I'm sorry.
I feel like most of us would agree that like what they would do given they have the ability to do these things, given like not an external pressure stopping them from doing this, would be the best thing. Like I'd want a partner who wouldn't want to go sleep with their ex, even if they could do that, even if it wouldn't have like a social ramification for them to do that. I think we can like all agree with that, right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I don't think having that pressure on them to stop them from doing that for that reason is going to be a good thing. I think we should select our partners based on what they would do given that chance, not try and like manipulate what they can do.
Yeah, I see the point he's making. I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I mean, I guess it just depends on the method in which you are preventing people from doing things.
Yeah, I don't think like preventing them from doing things is the right thing. I think that giving them the ability to, and we can choose based on what they will do.
Yeah, when I say preventing people, again, I don't necessarily mean like forcing people to do things, you know, through either physical force or forcing people to do things through, you know, cultural incentives. I don't necessarily think of that as force, but I think that having a higher amount of people who would not engage in those behaviors in the first place would be beneficial to society.
But the question is how.
Yeah, I agree. It'd be better like if we could just like magically change their disposition differences. We let like Andrew go be the genie again. We very carefully prompt engineer him so he changes the disposition.
Always the fucking
It doesn't have to be magic though.
I mean, Corinth, fuck off with your fucking make me. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I had to make
finish your point.
You were being really genie, but I feel like that we don't have a good way to like change the dispositionary differences, and we're just trying to like go downstream when we attack like modern sexual culture rather than traditional sexual culture. A lot of the cases, if you talk to an older person, they had a lot of these things. They were just a lot more hidden, and they had less of an ability to reach out and do these things. They were like pointing out and saying it's bad.
Okay. I still don't think that. Yeah, I really don't know how to respond to that. I'm not sure what I think about it, honestly. I would need to think about it more.
If what I can do here is like make you at least take a good think about the position, like what we should do rather than just like go after a culture and think about how we can actually change the dispositionary differences, because like that's what we're actually valuing there. That's like a win for me, right? I feel like I had an effective call there.
All right, man. Appreciate the call in, Corinth. Have yourself a wonderful day. Normally, I would not have involved myself in this debate as much as I did, but I feel like last time Alex was moderating my debate, he involved himself. So I feel like turnabout is fair play. But anyway,
after the debate
Kiwi man, you've been waiting patiently in the background. Go ahead when you're ready.
Oh, bro, can you guys hear me, eh?
I can hear you, Kiwi man.
Oh, guys, I just wanted to just make a shout out to all the Aussies and Kiwis out there.
That shit ain't real. That shit ain't real.
Nah, we're guys, don't ever listen to Andrew. We're real, okay? Don't ever let this guy deny us, bro. We're real.
Whatever, all right, man. Your fucking bullshit with your fucking bullshit.
Listen, hey, I need to talk to Alex first anyway.
Fine, Kiwi man, go ahead.
Oh, bro, Alex, I came on your stream yesterday, bro. You like bitched out, hey? You didn't want to let me in.
Well, I wasn't streaming yesterday, so yeah.
Whenever I was, bro, like we're from the future, you know. Time doesn't work right where we are, but anyway, bro.
Okay.
Bro, I want to know something, G. Why do you always pick on Andrew for smoking?
Are you seriously interested in asking me a question, or you just want to like fuck around?
Bro, I want to ask you. I asked you a question, G. Why do you always pick on Andrew for smoking, bro?
Well, first of all, I don't pick on Andrew for smoking. I believe in people have the right to do whatever the fuck they want. I used to smoke when I was younger. I only bring it up when I feel like there's a contradiction between his behavior and his philosophy. So I have no problem with Andrew smoking. Yeah.
Do you participate in any of these behaviors too?
No, I don't smoke or drink, but I used to smoke when I was a lot younger
How come you don't do that, bro?
because it's bad for you, and I quit.
Oh, okay, bro. Well, I noticed something from the last stream, bro. You know, in my culture, we drink a lot of kava on the weekends, you know. You
Yeah.
drink kava too, don't you, bro?
Yeah.
You know that's a drug, eh? You know that's not good for you, bro.
No, I don't know that. I think kava doesn't really have any substantial negative effect.
Oh, bro, you're actually stupid if you think that. You know, it doesn't even taste good, bro. It tastes like ass. It tastes like dirty.
Vitamins don't taste good either, but they have a good effect on you. So yeah. I don't know.
Oh, bro, it's literally a depressant, bro.
All right, that's all the trolling I could take for the day. Holy shit!
That dude was like a straight up troll, by the way.
Well, he was trolling a little bit, I think, but
that was 100% trolling. But okay.
Yeah, he was trolling a little bit of trolling, but I think it was still fun. Let me move over to the super chats, and I'll let you guys get out of here. Appreciate you guys staying on for the breadth of the broadcast very much. $10 comes in from Wilham Bones. He says absolutely nothing. Appreciate that very much. $5 comes in from Vile Van Gogh. He says, though the promotion of individual autonomy and choice, or I'm sorry, he meant to say through the promotion of individual autonomy and choice, liberalism conditions us to see potential partners as easily replaceable, and thus people get fixated on finding the perfect partner and end up miserable. Do you guys want to speak to that?
Well, I think that there's a happy balance. So I don't think you should go with the first person that is showing interest in you. I do think that screening is essential. But obviously you don't want to become like a perfectionist and overdo it. So I think there's a happy balance that needs to be, in place where like, hey, I'm going to look right. But if I find someone that meets like 95% of my criteria, then I'm not going to like just be constantly seeking perfection.
Okay. And then Fatty Chad, do you have anything there?
I mean, I just basically agree with the super chat more or less.
Okay. Appreciate that. Next super chat comes in, $5 from Petrogard. By what metric would you argue that modern dating culture has made happier or more stable relationships?
I've never argued that. Once again, I said that I don't know. So yeah, I can't answer that question.
Okay. $10 comes in from Richie. He says, Alex, you are found guilty of destroying women and their capacity to pair bond. Your executioners will be an army of incel gripers with pale noodly arms. Do you have any last words?
I know Kung Fu, so don't fuck with me.
Okay, fair enough. $5 comes in from Wicked Wally. He says, I really, really love personal testimonials. You might say I love them so much that I'm always anecdoting on them. Yeah, that's a failure. Worst dad joke I've heard in months from Wicked Wally. He sent me a whole binder filled with dad jokes. It was a whole calendar filled with dad jokes, and that one was fucking terrible. $5 comes in from Sick. No message entered by user, just showing support for the channel. Appreciate that. $25 comes in from Jim Lamana. No message entered by him either. We appreciate the super chat, Jim. $10 comes in from Kevin, not an expert. Says, does Alex want women on mind-altering drugs, birth control, so that he can basically come inside of them? Is that moral? And if so, what is that morality grounded on?
So first of all, I'm in a relationship, so I'm not trying to bust a nut inside random girls. Even if I wasn't, I would not be coming inside girls I don't know. There's STD factors that I would not want to take my chance with. Birth control prevents pregnancy. It doesn't prevent STDs. So I don't think it's ever a good idea to come inside a random girl. Do you all want girls on birth control? Again, I don't have any position on that. That's up to them. Certain girls find that they get some benefits from birth control. Like, for example, my girlfriend finds that she has a lot less acne and her periods are a lot less painful. Some girls get really bad side effects from birth control. So I think that women should have the right to decide if they want to take birth control or not, but I don't have any dog in that fight. I don't care if women take more birth control or less. It doesn't matter to me. Not something I'm ever pushing. So, yeah.
All right. Appreciate that very much. That's the last of the super chats in the alt channel. Appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Before we go, though, Kyle, one more time, shout out any social media you'd like to.
Right there on the screen, Base Fat Chad on Twitter. That's basically what I am on everything. That's what my YouTube is. I have an individual YouTube. I don't post much on it. I would like to post some stuff on it. The podcast is the Two Tongues Podcast. You can find that on YouTube. You can find it on Apple, on Spotify, and you can follow my conflict avoidant co-host as well. He is at Two Tongues Pod on Twitter.
And then Alex PWF, who, though you are a Degen, you're my favorite Degen, and I appreciate you coming on the Crucible. And again, for the lengthy engagement, we always have a good time. Also, we have a debate coming up, I believe, Sunday against myself and some guy named the Duke on feminism. So the Duke, that ought to be interesting. But before we wrap up, go ahead and shout out to your social media as well.
Sure. My channel is called Playing with Fire for the 3 or 4 people who are not completely morally disgusted by my ideas. So you can check it out if you want to get some good dating advice. You want to, get laid or get a girlfriend or whatever it is that you want. We got you. So yeah, it was a good debate. I enjoyed it. And yeah, Kyle, if you ever want to come on my channel, you're more than welcome. I know we didn't get to talk
I enjoyed it
about some of the things that you want to, so I'm open to talking about them anytime.
Yeah, I'll give you guys a connection on Discord if you want to talk further. So I appreciate it very much. And from all of us here at the Crucible to all of you out there in Crucible land, have a wonderful night.